Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Ask a Scientist Gaming, where we combine mediocre gameplay with expert science. I'm Ken Hansen. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry at Florida State University. I do photochemistry, light matter interactions, solar cells, all sorts of stuff. But more importantly, joining me today is Professor Matt Hauer, a sociologist in the Department of Sociology at FSU. Matt, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Yeah, hey, how you doing? I'm Matt Hauer. I'm a sociologist and demographer at Florida State.
What do you do, and what do you teach?
So I teach demography. I teach population data. I teach climate change and society. Most of my research is on human migration and how it relates into climate change, mainly around sea level rise. So sort of where people are going to go, how many people, and those kind of things.
All right. Equally important, what are we playing tonight?
Tonight, right now, we're going to play Crypt of the NecroDancer. It's a nice little, dungeon crawler with a rhythm attached.
This is a fun game. If you wouldn't mind explaining this game before we get into the science.
Yeah, so there's music that plays in the background, pretty epic music, and you're this little dude right here who's bouncing around, and he bounces to the music. And there's little monsters that are in the dungeon, and the idea is to make it down to the next level of the dungeon, to the next zone, without dying, while these little monsters are coming after you, and you can get like power-ups and stuff like that. The idea is to stay with the beat as the music plays. All the monsters will usually move to the beat, and you got to move to the beat too. You can kind of see them, bouncing along like, yeah, I'm gonna get to the dungeon. But I'm not very good at this, making it to the beat, and it's really hard to concentrate. So I'm actually gonna play a character who you can actually move freely without it. It'll give me a little bit of time as well to answer questions and stuff.
All right. Yeah, for those of you not familiar with the stream, it is difficult to play video games and answer scientific questions while playing. David Collins, for example, chose Battletoads, which is one of the notoriously hardest games in Nintendo. So yeah, playing to the beat is a non-trivial task. But yeah, welcome. Go ahead and get started, and we're happy to open up chat for questions.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'll try and explain a little bit if you're unfamiliar with how the game goes. So I'm in the dungeon, kind of bouncing around, trying to take out some of these blobs. Oh, I got a skeleton guy. They all have these really nifty patterns, so you got to try and catch them before they get to you. Some of them are easier. This guy's easy. Boom.
Yeah.
Just gonna take him out.
So it's rhythm and problem solving.
Yeah, you got to figure out the pattern.
Walking and chewing gum at the same time. I like it.
And I want to collect these diamonds. These diamonds are really good. You can spend them on like upgrades for your guy.
I like it. All right, so general science. I don't actually know what you do in a broader sense of like day-to-day logistics. So are you a big data scientist? Your data, statistical analysis, modeling?
Yeah, that's exactly how I would describe it. Population statistics are one of the original big data fields. It's hard to find like historic social data that is bigger than census data. I mean, the enumeration of the entire U.S. population every 10 years is by definition large. At least several hundred million responses. So yeah, somebody has to understand those processes, sort of how populations change. And so that's sort of where I come in. How we analyze that data, what we think about that data, the implications of that information and that data, and so on.
So what are your typical data sets?
So I'm based primarily in the U.S. is where I do most of my research. So I end up with almost entirely data in the decennial census itself, and like derivative products. So the American Community Survey is a big product of mine. That's where you get all the really good information, like household income and education level and so on. But sometimes you use UN data as well, and sometimes it's administrative data like birth records or death records. Yeah, so anything that has to do with like the three main component processes. So if you think about a population, any population, anywhere, there's only three possible ways that it can change. You can only add people to a population because they're born. You can only take people away from a population because they die. And in between, you get migration, birth, people move around. They go to a different area. And so that's anything that's inside of those three components is basically my wheelhouse. So you could think about it broad too, right? Like,
yeah, it sounds so simple when you put it that way. But yeah,
I mean, that's the beautiful thing about it, is in its simplicity, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing.
And you can add people, if you think about like a college campus, you know, you could add people to a population as well through births, right? Like new enrollments. You could take people away similar to deaths because people drop out maybe. And then, of course, you can have people also migrate in. They could transfer from another university. So you can have, population processes outside of just like thinking big level population, and actually have demography that's related to something similar.
So there was some contentions on the 2020 census and how that was administered. How much does that screw you guys over?
Well, it was a big threat. Whether or not we were going to have questions on citizenship status, and there was delays as well that could have happened because of COVID. That was a big problem. The thing that makes census data so good as well is because of the continuous nature of the collection. So every April 1st, like clockwork, every April 1st, every year that ends in a zero, so 2000, 2010, 2020, 1900, right, and so on, at least in the US, you can basically count on having census data for it. But with COVID, it really threatened that continuation. And so if you're looking at long-term change of the US populace, and you change your collection date because of COVID, you might have an exogenous reason as to why a population is actually altered. So that was one of the big threats, and thankfully it didn't. It affected it, but not on the same level as was feared, thankfully. And then you had questions that might have been added that just hadn't been tested. That's the thing about the census, is that the questions and the quality of the data is some of the best in the world. And so if you start introducing a question like, are you a US citizen, which sounds on its surface to be a relatively easy question to add, but in practice, it's actually much more difficult. You have to think about all the different ways you could ask that kind of a question and the different types of responses that you might get. And on top of that, you have the different languages that it has to be asked in, because, the US is very multicultural. They could also influence responses, or the way that people might actually decide to respond when they see that. So you might have people that decide they're not actually going to respond because they saw that question, and so it harms the quality of the data.
That sounds like a nightmare. Like, I've seen that on like multiple choice tests. If you change one word, it's a 5% swing in outcome. And you're talking about data that you haven't vetted that question necessarily, at least on that great of a scale. It's pretty intense.
And it was introduced very, very late in the process, the decennial process. So there was, and that question is already captured. Like, that's the other thing, is the American community, the decennial census doesn't have a question like that, but the long form, or the American Community Survey, the continuous collection that the census has, does have that question. So it does ask a citizenship question. So you can figure out how many people, like, we know how many people are citizens and non-citizens in the US already. Why do we need to add that to the decennial census?
All right, so we have a question from 2D Battery. How do you think the next consensus, should that be census, will change based on the COVID epidemic, if at all? How is COVID affecting census data? Oh, that's an interesting question. Is this in terms of acquisition or in terms of outcomes? Because we have a prediction question based on COVID changing data.
Yeah.
Should we pop that one up?
Yeah.
All right. Colin, do you have the predictions? The question we're going to ask. Give me a second. Okay, we'll pop that up in a second, and then we'll answer your question with that. But yeah, so you don't think it's going to have a major impact on most of the data in terms of just the acquisition of the data?
No, it should be okay. There's in isolated cases it got worse, right? But overall, I don't think it didn't really degrade the data as much as we were afraid. And partly because the Census Bureau is such a great professional organization with this. So I mean, the field workers and so on really came together to make sure that we'd have a great census. Oh, look at this! I can go through walls now. That's a cool item. I'm gonna pop out and get one of these guys. Let's see here.
All right, so for those of you not familiar with Twitch gambling, also known as predictions, basically we're going to pop something up. It's going to show up on the top of your chat bar. It's going to allow you to predict between two outcomes. We're going to pop up a question related to how COVID has affected just human statistics, basically, or at least we'll get to specifics in a second, but click on that, make your prediction, gives you an opportunity to spend your imaginary internet points. If you're not familiar with those are, see the Xi Greek symbol on the bottom of your chat. That's your standard internet units. You can bet imaginary internet points on a prediction and then spend them accordingly. So the prediction is up. How much did life expectancy change with COVID? As in, COVID has killed a lot of people younger than they should have naturally, and so it is going to naturally change the life expectancy. And so your options are, will it change it greater than a year or less than a year? You have 2 minutes to answer. If you want more internet points, click follow right now. I think it dumps 300 internet points into your account. Does it change life expectancy by greater than a year or less than a year?
It's a great question.
So global population is 7 billion, 8 billion people now?
Yeah.
And we've had how many deaths across the globe from COVID?
Oh God, I don't even know. A lot. Too many, that's for sure.
More than we should have.
Definitely more than we should have.
All right, you have 1 minute to cast your vote. Life expectancy drop with COVID, greater than 1 year or less than 1 year?
Great question.
If I do say so myself, yes.
Oh, I'm getting beat up on this level. I'm getting hit by...
Does this also count secondary deaths such as due to hospital capacity? Yes.
That's a great question. Probably yes.
I think it did in the study I saw.
Would it count like excess, so people who died from other causes, right, that were unrelated to COVID? I'm not entirely sure.
Lena says it's been 2.4 million deaths globally.
2.4. Wow, man.
All right, 10 seconds. Last bets on how it's changed life expectancy. All right, Matt, what is the answer?
Over a year.
Over a year. So there's been enough COVID deaths to change the life expectancy globally by over a year. What's the actual number?
It's like 1.3, I want to say.
1.3 years. So it has decreased life expectancy across the planet by 1.3 years in less than, 9 months?
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
That is crazy.
Congratulations to all of you who said greater than 1 year. You get your imaginary internet points that you can spend on requesting a factoid, highlighting your message, requesting we take a drink. It is entirely made up points. But again, congratulations on your win there. But that's a non-trivial drop in life expectancy. Like how many...
No, that is...
Like global events like this, I mean, you're talking Spanish flu, world wars, like it takes something huge to get that much of a dent in numbers.
Yeah, and the real crazy thing is that the younger you are, like in terms of mortality and its effect on life expectancy, younger people who die have a greater effect like in general, because you think about the potential years of life lost that you lose when you're a young adult who dies, as opposed to, you know, an elderly person. And yet, you know, who does COVID affect the most? You know, elderly people, for the most part. They're the ones that are most susceptible.
Joey, thanks for the follow. Sorry about that.
Yeah. And so, like, the fact that we have this drop with elderly people on this, when most mortality is with the elderly in COVID, is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, so if this was proportionally affecting the under 30s, I mean, we would have saw like 5-year drop or something crazy, right?
Yeah, it would have been much more significant.
That's crazy. I mean, so how does this mess with your like analysis? I mean, it's a non-trivial drop in the number of people. It affects migration. It affects, I mean, is this something you have to report in your paper, as we also had to account for this?
For which paper?
Just any paper you write. I mean, is this
for this year? Yeah, anything that is going to analyze 2020, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like that's just
I mean,
a qualifier you have to include.
Yeah, pretty much. There's no way around it. I mean, because everything that happened on the year was affected. It's hard to find any trend, period, in the United States or globally that was not affected by COVID. So, like, everything has an asterisk, basically, for the year.
I mean, so the secondary implication is, like, people are driving less, right? So there's less driving fatalities. And, I mean, does this just completely screw up every model? Does this defy everything you've seen before?
If it is if it's a permanent change, yeah, but it's not necessarily a permanent change, right? So, like, otherwise it's just a single year anomaly. But if these trends hold on, right, for longer years, then yeah, you basically have a major change in almost anything across the globe. Trying to get this guy. I don't know how to get him.
I love the rock creatures. Those are pretty amazing.
These giant golems.
Yeah.
They're all offbeat. They're really... Oh, dang it. That guy got me.
Skazbot has a follow-up on that. Isn't this an opportunity to follow up a scenario that otherwise wouldn't happen? Like, is this a unique opportunity for someone to harvest data and learn something profound?
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's a fire hose of science at this point when it comes to COVID. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of people are doing that. Like, a lot, right? I mean, we learn a lot about humanity from it. Both good and bad, you know? So, yeah, I mean, this is like a fire hose of science. Data collection, you name it. Like migration, mortality, fertility, I mean, it's affected pretty much everything. Travel, desires, I mean, college completion rates, I mean, high school completion rates even. I mean, it's like, it's everything.
Ogarbliz, thank you for the follow. Enjoy your standard internet units that we will use for betting later. Alexis has a question. In terms of gaming, why should we care? Would climate change affect Princess Peach as much as Toad, etc.? Are people affected equally?
No. People are affected differently.
No, some people in the Mushroom Kingdom have castles and others don't.
Yeah.
There's clearly demographic differences within the world of Mario.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's definitely gender differences and species differences. But I don't know if there's any age differences. I feel like everyone in the Mario Kingdom looks the same age. Maybe I'm a little biased on it, but I've never seen something about how they're different age, right? I mean,
yeah.
Maybe Waluigi is a little older. I don't know.
That's the mustache.
Maybe
is
Bowser's
misleading.
the oldest, right? Yeah, right. The mustache. But yeah, it affects people differently. Some people, I mean, obviously means are some, but even just with just age as an example, you know, and some people are just not good at handling hotter temperatures.
All right, we have Aniko has requested a factoid.
Factoid.
Do you have a factoid, a 20-second blurb that will blow everyone's mind from your field? Or this game? Either one.
Yes. I got one. I got a good one. So, generally, this was something that blew my mind when I first found out about it. So, generally, right, as you get older, the likelihood that you die goes up. So, obviously, somebody who's over the age of 80 is more likely to die than somebody who is, like 25, right? And this is true up until a point. And after a certain point, it actually, mortality rates either plateau or begin to fall, such that really old individuals, like people over the age of like 110, actually have a lower probability of dying than somebody who's like 95 or 100. And that blew my mind. Like, how in the world does that happen? How do some people that are very clearly very old and should have a very high probability of dying actually have a lower one than what we would presume to be healthier individuals?
Huh. So is there like it's an achievement threshold where you've survived this long, we're not gonna...
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Those are like super survivors at that point, right? Yeah, it's pretty amazing. You would think it would... All science and logic tells you that it shouldn't be the case. And yet, when you're confronted with reality, you have to accept it because it is.
That's pretty crazy. All right, Reese's Pieces wants to know, what are the trailing effects of something this substantial, referring to COVID? Would we be seeing the effect of COVID 5 or 10 years from now?
Oh, for sure we're going to see the effect. Probably for the next 30 years or longer. And these are like big macro level effects from COVID, right? Not like small, well, then small effects will, right, in your own personal life, but there's also big, huge effects. So think about, fertility rates have gone down in COVID. People are having fewer kids. And so that has a trickle effect. That'll have a trickle effect in 18 years for like college enrollments, or the number of people graduating high school, or the number of people getting married in 20 years, in 25 years, because there's simply going to be fewer individuals because fewer individuals were born. So that's like one of those really long range effects already that I can say is very likely to occur. And there's obviously other ones too. Like we have the Spanish flu is still with us. It's just, sort of, I don't want to call it pacified, but it's just not as aggressive as it was. As the virus kind of, mutates downward to being, a bit more mundane. So COVID will still be here for a long time. And I think that certain cultural things are probably here to stay that are not related to demography even. I think mask wearing is, at the bare minimum, is going to be here for a good bit. Even if it's not like mandated, it's probably going to be, some people, you'll see it, very normally, like in the airport or something like that. You won't think twice about it in the U.S., whereas you might have, thought, oh, it's kind of crazy wearing a mask right now. But it's going to become probably more normalized.
Yeah, I saw a joke somewhere that someone was like, I can't wait for COVID to be over for us to be able to cough particles at each other again. Like, it's kind of screwed up. We go to work when we're sick, right? But in Japan and China, it's standard practice, wear the mask, stay home. But yeah, what I'm really curious about, especially with like my kids, is they're going to daycare and they're wearing a mask every day. Like we're raising a generation of kids that think this is normal, and like washing your hands constantly. It's going to do weird things to outcomes, no question.
Yeah, my daycare got a UV filter kind of thing. And my son has not had anywhere near the number of like little sniffle kind of things that my daughter did. And it's like good and bad at the same time. Yeah. It's nice because I don't have so many days off and he's healthier. But then I'm like, well, I mean, how good is that in the long run? Like, is he going to build the same level of immunity?
Yeah. Wotus followed up with, the shift to remote work is going to also have significant impacts, commuting plus, personal health, all sorts of things.
I don't know. I'm not sure that the commuting is going to be necessarily super permanent. I think there's still something to be said about, closer human contact in a company, in an office setting, for white collar work, that you don't get otherwise. And I'm not sure that everywhere is going to be able to capitalize on the fact that there's going to be fewer people, you can work from anywhere, kind of like all this telework. There's all sorts of cities that are convinced that they can just, we're gonna people telework now, so we can get all kinds of people. People are going to come and move here in droves because they can, and I'm not convinced that that's necessarily going to be the case. You have to have a good reason besides that for someone to, move to a given area. I've never seen this guy before. Oh, he died though. I got him.
It's a fun testable hypothesis.
Oh, dang it! I had a mimic.
All right, a lot of COVID-related questions. I'm going to catch up on a few of these. Do you think COVID will open up new topics of studies and education? Will FSU or any major school teach courses on COVID impact?
Yeah, there's going to be seminars taught forever. I mean, you can still get seminars on the Spanish flu, for instance. Yeah. You can get things on AIDS, So there's all sorts of things like that that'll still happen. It's not going away.
I mean, to be fair, you can take classes on Harry Potter too, so somebody's going to teach something, but this one will be much more systemic and probably more respected as a course in general. Like, the thing is, like, when we teach special topics graduate courses, we kind of get to teach whatever the hell we want. And so if somebody's super interested in COVID, they'll do it. Now, if it gets integrated into undergraduate curriculum as a required or like a elective course, that's probably going to happen, or at least disease studies or something like that, right?
Oh, for sure, yeah. I can't imagine it otherwise without it. Dang it, he got me.
All right, Brent
These are
asks,
good questions.
how long do you think COVID restrictions will be going for?
I guess that's going to depend on the place, but probably, I don't know. I don't think very much longer, especially with the availability of vaccines as they are at this point. So even if today it's limited, they're saying by the summer there's going to be essentially anybody who wants one can get one, right? I mean, the U.S. should have 300 to 500 million doses by June, by July. And I think Fauci just said that they can probably do vaccines to kids as young as first grade by the fall. So
is that approved, or they're working on approving that?
I don't know if they're working on it, but I saw that he had a quote about it, that he could see that happening. So I think that, and I'm sure people are working on it now. So I think that what is normal, quote unquote, is going to be happening a lot sooner than you'd think. So if you're interested in travel industries, and if you're working in one, or hospitality, or just tired of being at home, yeah, I mean, it's regular life is probably coming at much sooner than you'd think. Normal, quote unquote, right? In the altered form.
And Nico wants to know, are the precautions that are put in place to halt COVID transmission already lowering infection rates and deaths of other communicable diseases in any detectable ways? If not, do you think it will in the future?
I mean, yeah, I can't imagine that it isn't. Flu rates are down, and it makes a lot of sense that flu rates would be down simply because it's another respiratory disease, and people are wearing masks. So transmission with other types of diseases are down. There's fewer contact. People are upgrading their AC and their HVAC systems. So yeah. Will it continue? Maybe. Depends on how well people, keep with different protocols and stuff.
Yeah, New Zealand's doing well.
Yeah.
They're following the rules. All right, Alexis wants to know, because our host brought it up, if you had a magic wand like Harry Potter, in which direction would you wave it to mitigate the consequences of climate change?
Which direction?
Yes. I mean, there's clearly a pattern that you can wave in order to mitigate climate change.
Is there a good direction or a bad direction? Oh, like direction of climate change, like less?
I'm assuming they're talking about the physical motion of the wand. There are rules.
I don't know enough about the wand. I was not into Harry Potter when I was younger, so I don't know.
Yeah, we missed that. That was not our age demographic.
I'm a little too old.
Sorry, Alexis. The scientists have let you down on this one.
I don't know the science of Harry Potter well enough.
That's awesome.
Oh, this is a big guy. Look at this. Is a different golem. He's not gray. He's a brown golem.
And he's got 8 hearts.
He's gone now. Yeah, he's the boss guy. He walks the stairs.
For anyone just joining us, this is Ask a Scientist Gaming with Professor Dr. Matt Hauer. He's a sociologist that studies the effects of climate change on all sorts of human-related statistics, and he's playing Crypt of the NecroDancer. If you guys are interested, this game is available for $3 on Steam right now. It is on 80% sale, so coincidental timing that Matt is playing it. Or they timed it up with you playing. I'm not sure which one came first.
I'm that good, right?
Yes.
Oh, this guy's got I can't break through his shield. Look at that. I gotta try and get him from the side. Like that!
Have you been to this level before?
Yeah, I've gone all the way down. But, I died then. No. Dang it.
So you start over.
It's harder than it looks.
Is it the start of the level or start of the game? You have to start over.
I start at the level. I can do one where I start all the way from the beginning, and oddly, it's a little bit easier. Oh, see, so now I got the dragon.
This is awesome, Bronco. It's weird seeing gameplay without cheat codes. Just talking shit to our previous guests. Don't worry, there'll be cheat codes later when he plays MegaMan X.
There's definitely cheat codes later. Oh, I died that time.
We will not let you down. There will be cheat codes. All right.
High score of 14 on that round. That might be the highest score of the day, right? 14. That sounds like a really high score.
I don't know the scoring rules in this game.
I don't either. I should know. I play it. I don't even know.
I'm not familiar with Crypt of the NecroDancer. Is this a roguelike game? How would you describe this game?
Yeah, this is a roguelike. A roguelike. It's like if you made, I guess, like a Dance Dance Revolution combined with a roguelike. This is what you would get. Because you're supposed to move to the actual beat. See, everyone's frozen right now. They're all frozen, even though the music keeps playing. Because I'm on a special I unlocked a character that makes life way easier in this game. Otherwise, there's like a sound bar that keeps moving and pulsing, and you got to move to the beat. And the monsters all move to the beat, and they're bouncing around, and they're like doing things, and they're like, you gotta catch them. But
all right, I got an easier question for you. What are you drinking tonight?
What am I drinking? I've got an Omengong 3 Philosophers bourbon barrel. That's what I've got.
Go to the left. There you go. Little green in there.
Just nice. A little green.
I'm doing a proof.
It's pretty good.
Proof mango wit, leftovers from Vanucci's visit a couple weeks ago.
Classic.
Yeah. Oh, when I plug things like game and beers, we are not sponsored by anyone. I'm not propaganding. I'm just sharing information that people might want to know. So, all right. Questions in chat. Does anyone have questions for Dr. Matt Hauer? The dancing rock guys are my favorite. It's really the shoulder motion.
I like the skeletons because they're all like hands up, and then you just pop them. They're gone.
And Nico has a game-related question.
Let me hear it.
Because you seem to know your way around games. What's your favorites and favorite genres? And were you able to play much during your PhD?
No, I could not play much during my PhD. Oh, man. No, my entire life was dedicated basically to one thing, when that was nonstop reading and math. So, no, I did not do very much gaming while I did a PhD. didn't do much of anything except for reading. But now I guess I like strategy games a lot. I grew up playing the Civilization games, so I liked those for a long time. I really like Skyrim. I'm a big fan of Skyrim. What else? When I was a kid, I really liked the Mega Man games. I had a Sega channel when I was a kid, which was awesome to have. It's like one of the greatest things a kid could have is unlimited games of any kind that they could ever want. All they had to do was download them for free or for cheap.
So for those of you under the age of 30, basically you would have it was a cartridge that you'd plug into your console, but it had a connection to a coaxial cable. So you'd essentially hook your TV cable up to your gaming system, and you could download games and play those games, and it was way ahead of its time. Like, I think it bombed, actually. It didn't do well, right? It maintained for a while, but it was too soon. But it is the Steam and internet of gaming that we know now. But they did it, geez, when was that? That would have been early 90s, mid 90s?
Yeah, early to mid 90s probably. I like, what else is another one? I like the Total War series a lot. That's a good one. I liked Minecraft for a while. Who doesn't like Minecraft though, right? I mean, it's hard to find somebody who doesn't like Minecraft. I like roguelikes like this. I like dorky little flash games online. I don't know, it's fun, man. Games are fun. Board games are fun. Card games are fun. This guy's fun because he sings.
This game has everything. All right, a few questions from chat. Bronco wants to know, did Trump's presidency have any significant difference in migration out of the U.S. compared to earlier presidencies?
I don't think there was a lot out of the U.S., but it had a serious effect on international migration into the U.S. So fewer people moved into the U.S. during Trump's presidency than beforehand. That's really clear. And that's, things like the Muslim ban was a role, rhetoric was a big role. Why move to the U.S. if somebody's, that's what the leader is talking about. Like, we don't want you kind of thing. Prior to that, some of the trends were a bit more long run. So I think migration from Mexico was down. In-migration from Mexico was down, but it was going down under Obama as well, starting in 2009. But that's because, people move to another country for a better life, and it's kind of hard to move to another country in the midst of a global recession and have a better life. So Trump had one that was definitely on international in-migration, but I don't think there was an effect on international out-migration, so more American expats throughout the world. I'm not sure that had much of an effect. But I don't know off the top of my head. That's a bit of more speculation. But I can guarantee the in-migration is down. International in-migration.
Here's a random fun question from Hannah. If you had to pick if you had to pick a favorite restaurant in Athens, Georgia, what would it be?
Oh man, Athens. What is my favorite Athens, Georgia restaurant?
This is a sit back and pause question. That's what this turned into.
Well, when I was in Athens, it was named Foodie City of the Southeast. So, there's so much good food in Athens, and it's got this nice downtown and stuff as well. There's a do you know what the Beard Award is? The James Beard Award?
I am not familiar with that.
That is the highest award that a chef in America can win. And Athens had a guy who had won the Beard Award twice. He won it 2 times. Hugh Atchison, and he had multiple restaurants in Athens. So he had one was called the 5 and 10. That was a really good one. Oh man, there's so many good restaurants in Athens. It's really hard to just say one of them, to pick one.
This is the hardest question you've had all night, but thankfully we've had a request from Internet Points to take a drink. So pause, take a drink, and think about your answer.
Yeah. Oh man.
Cheers, everyone, to Tuesday night drinking while talking science and playing video games. Thank you all for stopping by.
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I can tell you my favorite pizza place was the Transmet, if it's still there.
It's like you've given a Michelin star, but for the chef rather than the restaurant.
Yeah, he had good food, and it was like, interesting kind of stuff.
All right, so
frog legs and stuff.
Back to demography. What types of demographic information are surprisingly related to climate change? This is kind of requesting a specific fun factoid.
Oh, I mean, so almost anything is. So what drives emissions is, how many mouths there are, right? How many mouths you have to feed, how many cars are on the road polluting, anything that has to do with a per capita rate is gonna be demography right off the bat. And then in the future, right, you have future populations too, right? So what is the emissions going to be in 2050? Well, that's directly related to how many people are going to be born between now and 2050. The more mouths, right, in the future. So there's one right off the bat that is related to, and that's just per capita, just strictly how many people. You've got fertility rates that are going to have a role as well. There's birther movements now around climate change. Oh, that was a barrel. The black thing was a barrel. I thought it was an enemy. I kept whacking it. And then I got whacked by somebody else. So that's directly related. And then consumption patterns are another thing that's directly related. So it's not just the total number of people, but also the resources that those people are going to use. And so wealth and development all play immediate roles in how much emissions we're going to have. So those are things right off the bat, right? So total population, you've got fertility rates are going to be directly related to it. You've got development and GDP per capita and household income are going to be related to it. So there's a surprisingly large amount of data sets that are directly related to climate change. Outside of thinking about like thermometers and stuff,
Ninja Physics, a renewable question. With regard to adopting renewable technology as a private citizen, do you know anything about why people may be reluctant to adopt renewables aside from high cost up front?
Yeah. So part of it is as you mentioned, the high cost, but we know that different messengers for sending a message, people listen to different types of messengers is one. So messaging that happens and who you're trusting plays a role. So some people are reluctant simply because who's telling them or where they're getting their information is sort of skeptical or doesn't believe in it, so they don't think it's trustworthy. This could be a pastor, or it could be a talk radio host, it could be a politician, it could be a family member. Could also play a role. So they don't trust that sort of thing. Age could play a role as well, and that goes beyond just simple costs. Some people are just of an age where they're not going to actually make a switch to renewable.
That is most of Congress, by the way.
Yeah, right. I mean, you're sort of like, well, I'm not going to be here. You hear this kind of thing. I'm not going to be around. So why do I care? So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things as to why somebody might or might not do renewables, besides just cost. And sometimes cost isn't just upfront cost either. I haven't put solar panels on my roof yet, and it's because I think that I'm betting that solar panels are going to come down in price over the next few years, even if I could afford it, technically could afford it today.
A-Rob has redeemed. That's Take a drink. Wait till we add an imaginary internet point for like 100,000. They can buy shots. It's going to be an interesting night.
Oh God. Oh God.
It'll be good for everyone. All right. Thank you, A-Rob. All right. Matt, what are your
Definitely
thoughts?
more. Oh, I died. What killed me? Look at that. Something killed me, came out of nowhere.
Matt, what are your
Sorry.
thoughts about the current situation in Texas weather-wise?
Yeah, I mean...
It sucks. It sucks.
Yeah, man.
That's short answer. That's brutal.
Yeah, it is brutal. My brother lives in Houston right now, so he's had real cold weather. I'm like, dude, that's crazy how cold it is. Yeah, I mean, it's just wild, and this is part of the unpredictability of that climate change brings. It's hard to really wrap your head around without being like steeped in it, and that's that. Sometimes what you have is a very small change in the mean. So people say, well, you know, what is the future going to be right under the climate scenarios? 1 degree warmer or 2 degree warmer, right? Like Paris is to keep us to 1.5. Like it's a small, it seems like it's a really small amount. And so even though the mean stays relatively small in terms of the change, the distribution of values can really shift. So you end up with what we would consider to be low probability events become much more common. Things like this right here with these like extreme cold snaps. You get like the Hurricane Harveys of the world, right? They become more frequent. What is a 1,000-year storm, happens in more regularity, even if you go then several years without a storm in between. Like Hurricane Katrina hits New Orleans in the mid-2000s, right, in 2006, and then 14 years later, they get hit by 3 in a row, and in between, there's really no hurricanes that hit. So that stochastic nature of climate change gets just amplified. And we forget about things, too, that happen as well. So after we forget about the 1,000-year flood that happened in South Carolina a few years ago as well, that was really bad. I had friends that were at USC for a number of years, and they were talking about it. So, what's happening in Texas? People love to say, well, how can global warming happen if, just look at, what's happening in Texas? Well, yeah, but that's not necessarily out of, the ordinary, what we wouldn't expect to occur, because it's a change as well in the extremes to make them more frequent. And it sucks. That's the hard part. It makes weather way more unpredictable as well going forward, because of you're like, well, what used to be a low probability event becomes much more common. Guy's gonna take. There we go. I got him.
All right. Question from Unger Peppo. How much have your migration projections shifted with as sea level rise projections have changed over the past few years?
That's a good question too. So for those unfamiliar, so I'll give a little history. Can I take a little bit more time on this one? Can I do that?
Yeah. Yes, you can. You are the guest.
Cool.
You're in control, partially.
So I started working on sea level rise and migration in 2013. And at the time, there were 2 different kinds of physical science that was being done on this work. There was what were called semi-empirical models, where basically someone just fit a curve to historical global sea levels to get a prediction of what might be in the future. And then there were ones that were contribution based, where they actually tried to add in meltwater from glaciers and thermal expansion of water, right? Because the sun hits the ocean, it gets warmer, and so water is less dense, it expands, and so on, right? All these different types of contribution approaches. And so when I started, the IPCC, the International Panel on Climate Change's estimates in the contribution approach suggested that the maximum amount of sea level rise that we could expect would be somewhere on the high end at 3 feet or just under 1 meter. But that was the outside scenario. So I started doing this work in that time, and the semi-empirical, the highest was 1.8 meters when I started doing this work. So right about 6 feet or so. And since then, it seems like every single model has come in higher and higher and higher, where now the contribution models are suggesting something like 2 meters. And some of the other ones that are using longer range projections are also showing 2 meters. So what used to be considered like, that's crazy, that's impossible when I started doing this work of 1.8 meters or 6 feet is now much more common. But I was really lucky when I started the work because I had a collaborator who was working with a local city in Georgia. I was at the University of Georgia before coming to Florida State. And the mayor of their city, who was working through an adaptation plan for sea level rise, this is like 2013 or so, wanted to use the high-end sea level rise predictions because he was thinking about, you know, the survivability and the livability of his city. The highest elevation for his town, his little barrier island, was about 9 feet. So he was like really concerned about, you know, a 6-foot rise in sea level. He wanted to use the most pessimistic outcome in order to actually do, for us to do our work. So all of my work then has used the highest high sea level rise, the ones where you know, some scientists, when I was publishing, were at the time were saying, oh, it won't be that high, or this is too high, it's going to be lower. All the models are now actually coming in suggesting that these are increasingly likely. So thankfully I haven't had to actually revise most of my migration estimates because I'm already using the highest high that were being modeled before. So it's one time where being actually aggressive has paid off.
All right, Bland Molecule wants to know, I'm researching sustainable plastics, but no miracle plastic will change the issue with societal change on single-use waste. What is your advice to help convince people the inconvenience of reuse is worth it?
I mean, just think about what the future is going to be. And especially when it's like, you know, safeguarding your own community. So, you know, some people, not everyone, has strong place attachment to where they grew up or where they lived, and they want to leave the world, you know, better than they found it. Everyone wants to have I think everybody wants to have at least a positive legacy on the world. And so doing something to make the planet better does that, right? That's exactly what it does. Getting rid of single-use plastics helps with that. Even if you have somebody who's a climate skeptic and they're like, I don't believe in climate change, I don't think it's real, it's not really happening. They don't like having garbage in their community, they don't like having garbage in their neighborhood, I'm sure. And so even reducing single-use plastic can go a long way in making sure that their community is beautified. And that sounds like a pretty noble cause to me, personally.
All right, Alexis has requested a factoid with her imaginary internet points. Do you have another factoid?
A factoid. Yeah, so I can make this related to the question that was before about the pessimistic sea level rise scenarios. So this is going to be, I guess, a little bit longer than 20 seconds too.
That's fine, we'll take it.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
So when I started doing this work on sea level rise and migration, we used three sea level rise curves. We used a 1 foot, a 3 foot, and a 6 foot to model the migration. And we had to immediately throw out the 1 foot curve because it's for a technical reason. Our reviewers didn't like it, so we just straight up threw it out. You kind of always bow down to what the reviewers say or suggest. But that left us with the 3 foot and the 6 foot. So if we have 6 feet of sea level rise in the U.S., 1.8 meters, which is on the high end, but it's not it becoming increasingly likely, we're looking at about 13 million people in the United States that could be displaced by sea level rise, which would make it one of the largest migrations in U.S. history, numerically, if we have 13 million. 13
million. Wow. I guess this relate to Spatter Search's question. What will the future be for really at-risk places like Louisiana?
Well, it's gonna not be good. Have you seen Kevin Costner's Waterworld? It's gonna be along the line of that.
That was a documentary filmed in real time.
Yeah.
I mean, Louisiana,
good.
they already saw it, right? Katrina did a mass displacement, and people aren't going back, right? It's just, oh, some people are, but the numbers are going down, presumably.
It's not, well, the thing with Katrina is you have people going back. How do you go back to an area that's now underwater? You know, so like something like sea level rise is really unique because of that. Yeah. There's no rebuilding. Like, people don't live underwater generally. So that's it. You know, an area gets claimed by the ocean, and that's basically all she wrote. So yeah, for Louisiana, it doesn't look very good, especially for southern Louisiana. And you know, Louisiana's geography is really flat, so it's flat for a long time. It has a low elevation profile, which is a recipe for big problems when it comes to sea level rise.
So I'll follow up with, as an expert in sea level rise and migration, which cities should people in the audience not live in?
For sure, Miami. From there, it gets a little bit more dicey in the U.S. Globally, I don't know if I would live in Ho Chi Minh City. I don't know if I would live in Lagos in Nigeria. I don't know if I would live in Dar es Salaam. I'm not sure I would even live in the San Francisco Bay Area. For sure, not New Orleans. Well, I mean, I don't know. You could live in all those cities now. I don't know if I would buy property in them. Is probably a better way of putting it.
That makes sense. Short-term visits are okay.
Yeah, like, you know, you can enjoy a lot of Mai Tais on the beach in Miami before it's really time to get out of Dodge, but you probably don't want to be the last one holding the bag, right? Like, it's like musical chairs. You're playing a dangerous game if you're just sort of waiting it all out. But those are the areas, mainly in the southeast. The Bay Area, the San Francisco Bay Area, is a bit unique. Is San Francisco itself is very rocky, right? It's known for its hills, but the surrounding area is not so nice, especially in, like, I don't know. I've never really been to I've only been to San Francisco once, but I don't know what you would call the south part of the Bay. I don't know. I'm sure it's got a name. I don't want to say Southie, but, you know, the areas that are not like the city proper are in rough areas.
I have a question about Key West. Also, how about Tallahassee, Florida?
Yeah, definitely Key West. Visit, don't buy property. I would not buy property in Key West. This is not real estate advice. I say that right off the bat too.
But it kind of is. It kind of is.
Yeah.
At least
I would not buy real estate there.
30-year investment, it's not a good idea. 30-year mortgage.
Yeah. Yeah. Key West is great to visit. I don't know if I would buy property.
Yep.
They have problems now. That's the really crazy thing, is that they are already experiencing issues related to coastal flooding. So it's not just like a thing that is going to happen in the future at some point. It's like now, like, properties in Miami are already, you know, losing property value today. It's not, you know, in some like far off future. It's now. If you own an area, if you own property in Miami that is in an area that has coastal flooding, you're losing, you know, 3 to 5% of your home's value. Let's hear this guy sing.
There we go. Bronco has the answer. He's moving to Nepal. Makes sense. They should be okay. What about places like Boston?
Cool.
What about places like Boston and New York City? You always see New York City underwater in movies.
Yeah, they love to put in, I mean, you know, Kim Stanley Robinson wrote New York 2140. Yeah, it's really big in science fiction for this. And it's because it's New York City, right? Like, it's a huge city. It's got a great visual for being underwater. It would be great for it. But I mean, even New York is pretty rocky. So while it is really threatened, I don't want to say it's not threatened. It's not. It's threatened more so because of the sheer size of New York. So if I say 100,000 people in New York City are likely to be displaced because of sea level rise, that's a huge number. It's 100,000 people. But then at the same time, it's New York City, you know, like you're looking at millions of people in New York. So most people probably won't be affected that live in New York City. But some people are going to be really affected in some areas. Same with Boston. Boston's like that too. Or the problem will come in areas that are far from the ocean, but you're kind of stuck to it, right? So you have to drive through or commute into areas that are heavily affected. That's where you'll be impacted, but maybe not displaced, if that makes sense, right? So like in Miami right now, like people aren't really being displaced, but they're feeling effects. So it might be the same kind of thing. You might live in an area where you'll feel effects, but you necessarily won't be displaced.
All right, we just crossed 9 o'clock. You've been playing for an hour. Congratulations. Anyone just joining us, this is Ask a Scientist Gaming, mediocre gameplay plus expert level science. With us today is Dr. Matt Hauer, who is an expert in big data processing related to climate change and demographic changes. He's also playing Crypt of the NecroDancer. And so it's a good time to spend some imaginary internet points. So if you guys have standard internet units to spend and you want to bet on something, we're going to pop up a prediction right now. And so this is going to be, what's the population going to be in 2100? And so what is the world population going to be in 2100? That is 80 years from now. Will it be greater than 11 billion or less than 11 billion? So keep in mind the world population right now is approximately 8 billion. Is that right?
Yeah.
All right, so at the bottom of chat, you guys can click on your imaginary internet points and you can bet which one of these, greater than 11 billion, less than 11 billion, what will the world population be in 2100? And this is based on the best guesses we have to date. All right, you have.
I love the way you put it.
Why?
Your imaginary internet just cracks me up every time.
Yeah, sorry. So we called them standard internet units, but it's like, I don't know. it's. I asked Eugene de Prince, our quantum chemist, what Greek symbol we should use, and he said Xi symbol, and it should be standard internet units. All right, you have 52 seconds to guess. Is the population going to be greater than 11 billion or less than 11 billion by 2100? 80 years from now, how big will the population be?
Look at this guy. What am I going to do with him?
Have you seen this guy before?
I feel like I have.
It's a chessboard. That's fun.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm... Oh, am I going to get attacked over it?
They're following chess rules.
Are they?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. The pawns are going one forward.
Oh, they are. I'm going to just wipe them out right here.
Better get them before the queen.
I know, right? Oh, now he's coming out. Here comes the king. Oh, I got him. He only took one hit? Oh, man.
Man, greater than 11 billion is popular. 90% said greater than 11 billion. 10% said less than 11 billion. So based on the models, what's the population going to be in 2100?
Just under 11 billion, if I remember right.
Just
like
under
literally
11
just
billion.
under. It's
So
like
it'll be
10.9.
10.9 billion people. And so that prediction, obviously we don't have an absolute answer here, but we're going to say it's less than 11 billion. That answer is based on what?
The United Nations population projections.
And so what goes into that model?
That is a model where they try and predict changes in human mortality patterns, so improvements in mortality over time. They also try and account for global migration patterns, though migration patterns globally won't have an effect on the total. And then they also try and account for changes in fertility rates over time as well. And that's mainly due to advances in development across the world.
So Bland Molecule has a long-term plan for his or her imaginary internet points. I'm going to have 32 babies just to win this. Kudos to you, Bland Molecule. Earn this victory. Prove us wrong.
It sounds like it would be fun in the beginning part, but I don't know about it would be fun on the after part.
No, it definitely would not be. Hamsterlicious, thank you for the follow. Enjoy your standard and internet units, and let's start betting on some additional questions in a little bit.
Yeah.
Hashtag winning, Earth, hashtag losing. Well done. It's environmental terrorism.
Yeah, just a pound Bitcoin.
Hamsterlicious has redeemed their 300 internet points for a factoid.
Oh, a factoid. Another factoid.
Yep.
Okay. So, all right. So when it comes to migration and sea level rise, or just in migration in general, okay, we know a couple things about where people decide to move. I'm gonna ask you this too, Ken. See if you can get this.
Whoa. I'm not here to answer questions.
Yeah, I'm gonna change things up now.
All right, let's do it.
Getting a little squirrely. So we know most people, when they migrate, they tend to migrate short distances, okay? The other thing we know is that when people do, aside from short distances, they also tend to move near family and friends. So they move where their pre-existing ties already are, right? Like, I've got family and friends in Florida, so I naturally moved back to Florida after living in Georgia. I'm not likely to move to Montana. I know like one person in Montana. So they move short distances. They also tend to move where people already moved to, where they have friends and family. And they tend to move for socioeconomic reasons. So they move for a job or for schooling or, major economic reasons. So with all those kind of together, and if you think about sea level rise and where the areas that are most affected, which are mainly in the south, right? Like New Orleans, Miami, Houston, Tampa, right? Where are the most likely destinations for sea level rise migrants? What would be a nearby major economic center for coastal communities? Oh, I dropped out, sorry. So the likeliest destination, since I'm judging by the silence, it's a lot of thought, it's a lot of thinking, tends to be places like Atlanta, right? So it's like nearby the coast, but like not on the coast. It tends to be places like Austin, Texas, Dallas, Texas. It tends to be Charlotte, North Carolina, Washington, D.C., amazingly enough. It tends to be places like Phoenix, Arizona. Again, not accounting for other climate effects, but Phoenix ends up as a major destination. So if you aggregate up, like, where are most sea level rise migrants likely to be? They're probably not going to be in like Washington or in Maine or in upstate New York, but they're instead likely to be at major economic hubs in the U.S. South, which is not usually what people think about.
Unrelated fun factoid, we just crossed 1,000 views for Ask a Scientist Gaming, so congratulations to everyone that's joined us over the last several months. We're relatively young and new, but yeah, people love coming by and talking science and watching some video games, so that's awesome. Bland Molecule, congratulations on the gift sub. Thank you, Scuzzbot, for giving that to Bland Molecule. Enjoy your internet points, bet them on predictions about populations and whatnot. All right, questions. Calm Down Bronco wants to know, what's your favorite fiction book you've read recently?
Oh, that's easy. It's Rhythm of War, Brandon Sanderson.
Rhythm of War.
Yeah, it's the Stormlight Archive.
I don't know
Fellow
what that
fantasy
is.
fans.
Elaborate.
Oh man, it's It's super epic. Oh, I don't even know where to begin. It's the 4th book in a 10-book series that author Brandon Sanderson is writing. It's super epic fantasy. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know where to begin without ruining everything, but it's like amazing. The first one being The Way of Kings, second one being Words of Radiance, third one Oathbringer. There's a couple novellas in between as well. Edge Dancer is really great. Yeah, no spoilers. That's the thing. I can't really mention anything without ruining the story because it's so epic.
But you would recommend it to everyone.
Yeah, definitely
in the
Rhythm
audience.
of War. I started reading. Oh, 100% yes. Don't read Rhythm of War. Read Way of Kings, and then read Words of Radiance, and then read Edge Dancer, and then read Warbreaker, and then read Oathbringer, and then read Rhythm of War. So
I hope somebody's taking notes.
It's a lot to get there.
This will be up on YouTube if you want to come back.
Yes.
At the 1 hour and 10 minute mark of the YouTube video, play this again and then write those names down.
Man, he's so epic. Sanderson is the author. I picked up the Mistborn series. I started with Stormlight, and they're all supposedly related in somehow. I'm not going to go into too much more detail. But yeah, I started the first Mistborn trilogy because of it. Just finished it the other week, but after finishing Rhythm of War. So yeah, I've been reading a lot of Sanderson lately. He's just so good.
So let's say I'm lazy.
I recommend it.
Are they turning any of that into a movie?
Long. Probably not, and it's unfortunate because they're really long stories. The novels are really, really long. They're awesome though. They're totally worth it. My wife doesn't like fantasy. I finished reading it and I was like, you gotta read this. So she read Way of Kings, and then she was like, all right, what's the next one? I gotta read the next one. And
That's
so
awesome.
She's been reading Words of Radiance since then.
That's awesome. To that, Reese's Pieces has requested we take a drink. So cheers to Sanderson and Reese's Pieces. Thank you for swinging by. What does your beer cozy say?
Oh, that's a great question. So it says, oh, it might be reversed.
No, you're okay.
But it says beer snob, one who refuses to drink crap beer. So that's me.
I'm gonna say that's a super ironic holder because a beer snob will not have that as their beer cozy.
So I got it. My brother-in-law got it for me for Christmas, and he only drinks Bud Light, so it was
awesome.
a very, very appropriate gift.
All right, Reese's Pieces.
I should have an emotional support beer koozie. Oh, sorry. If people are like Brett Terhune on Twitter.
All right,
the comedian.
Reese's Pieces has a follow-up. Earlier you mentioned playing Civilization. Did that influence your decision to be a sociologist? Actually, I'll expand on this question before you answer it. Like, 6-year-old you was not like, this is where I want to be in, 35 years. So what led you to where you are, and was it related to the game Civilization?
I guess in part, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't rule it out as being a part of it. It was just really, I don't know. It's a cool strategy game. Even Civilization 1. I like Civ 2 better than Civ 1. I thought Civ 2 was a big improvement, but I mean, it probably played a role just because you're like learning about, you could have a government that was communist, and you could have a government that was a monarchy. You could learn about the different, make your society kind of evolve, and sort of who you're going to go to war with and stuff like that. But I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different things as to why I end up like this. Sociology just kind of happened. So when I started undergrad, you could still be undeclared. Usually you can't do that now. You have to declare a major. And so I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I really wanted to study. But I liked the social sciences. So I took economics classes and history classes and sociology classes and anthropology classes and psychology classes, like basically all the social sciences, to try and figure out what I actually wanted to do. And sociology was one that I ended up taking the most classes with. So my undergraduate major made a lot of sense to be sociology. But I took a class. A friend was like, "Hey, you're really good with weird statistics," and I am. I used to for a long time. I'm not as much anymore. But I would be really weird in the most useless statistics that you could imagine. The things that people tell you, you're so good with weird numbers and stuff. You should be great at trivia night. And I was awful at trivia night. Because you need to know like pop knot, like useful trivia. Like I had useless trivia instead is what I was really good with. So he was like, "Hey, you should take this class on demography. You know, you might be good at it." And I did my undergrad at Florida State, and lo and behold, Florida State had, you know, a course on demography, and I took it, and I was really good at it. It was like a combination of sociology and history and statistics all like the same time with like clear math. Like, you know, some people struggle with stats, and the math in demography is just very crystal clear. It's very elegant. It's very simple, which is what I really liked about it. And so I was good at it. I had this old school professor, and she posted the grades at the end of the semester, you know, in grade order with your name, and on the door. And I had the third highest grade, which was probably the highest grade I've ever achieved in a class out of 120 students. You know, last 4-year social kind of thing. And so I was like, man, I'm good at this, and I enjoy it. I wonder if I can actually do something with this career, because it's cool thinking about these like really big level questions, and they come up in the chat. Like these are questions that everyone has, like how many people, like what's the maximum population in the world, and like what do we do about it, and those kind of questions are awesome and very relevant to everybody. So I was like, I could do something with this, and it turned out that Florida State had a master's program in demography. And I finished it, and I got a job working for the Census Bureau with a master's, and then I got a job working for the University of Georgia. Real lucky, I had a really great mentor when I was there. And then it turned out I was really good at doing this type of research. And one thing led to another, and I became a professor just, you know, not long afterwards, after finishing a PhD at the University of Georgia. So I never set out to be a professor. So 12-year-old Matt never was like, I'm going to grow up and become a professor. It was like literally never my goal. I remember when I left the census to take the job at the University of Georgia, the secretary stopped me and she was like, "You're going to get a PhD." And I was like, "No, I'm really not. I'm going to have a job." And she's like, No, you're going to get a PhD.
That's awesome.
And I did. I mean, I got there, and my boss was like, "You need to get a PhD." And I was like, "But I'm not here to get a PhD. I'm here to work." And he said that a PhD at a university is basically a union card. So if you want to work at a university, you have to get a PhD. So I'm going to write in your employee evaluation that you have to get a PhD. And that's why I enrolled at a PhD. I wasn't actually trying to do one. It just was like kind of like a job requirement in a lot of ways.
That's awesome.
So, you know, life is weird. Sometimes, you know, people have a very straight path. I had a professor, and that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to be a professor, and so he majored in a particular thing, and then he went and got a master's, then he got a PhD, and then he got a job as a professor. And like, he's really good. He's a great professor. So some people, they have a straight path like that. I didn't really have a path like that. I just sort of found my aptitude, I guess, in a lot of ways as I went, and it worked out for me. But I'm also very, very lucky. I mean, very lucky. So
catching up, calm down, Bronco.
Yeah, I mean, just find what you like. Oh,
no, go ahead. Finish.
I was just gonna say, just find what you like in life, and especially if you can make a living with it, right? Like, I don't know if I would have gone into demography if I couldn't make a living. There's just not a lot of demographers out there, and so there's not a big demand for people who do my kind of work, but there's also not a very big supply. So, and the supply is always less than the demand. So I can always essentially have a job, but I'm also good at it. So it worked out. So find what you like to do and try that you can make a living on, and then do that. and it's like awesome when it happens. You can do things like play video games and talk about your research. And
Most demographers
cool
don't get to do this, but I think you might be the first. But catching up, Calm Down Bronco, thank you for the second month of Tier 1 subscription. We appreciate it. Subscriptions support the channel. Right now, it mostly pays for beer money. When people are in person, it'll also pay for Uber rides home for drunk scientists. So thank you for that. We're doing this voluntarily. We don't necessarily need the financial support, but we do appreciate it. Especially if you have an Amazon Prime account. Amazon owns Twitch, and so you can attach your Amazon Prime to Twitch and you can give us a free subscription, which means it's not your money, it's Jeff Bezos writing us a check directly. So if you have Amazon Prime, attach it to your Twitch account and subscribe through that. So free money for you, or free money for us, and then it doesn't cost you anything. So yeah, attach Amazon Prime to Twitch and subscribe through that and pay for the beer that we're drinking tonight. All right, questions. Follow up on life questions. How do you meet your wife? Because I hate swiping infinitely. You were pre-swiping days, presumably, when you met your wife.
I was, so I am not going to be able to provide very good life advice. If I'm ever in the market for a new wife, maybe you can help me out with a new partner, because I don't know how it's done these days.
Yeah, it's a different world, that's for sure. No question.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that would help too. I mean, I do have kids, so I don't know how they're going to do it. So however kids are doing it these days, I got to know. I got to be up on all that stuff.
The question was,
we used to send notes. There was like check yes or no, right? Like that song, the country song, that's like real.
We used to do phone calls too. That's crazy age.
Yeah.
Very different world we live in now. All right. Oh, put my swag in. I hate math, but stats makes me simp. Here's the thing though, stats is math. It's just not integral calculus math, right?
It has calculus in it. Just it's just different, right?
Yeah.
Like I have a really good friend, and he's an electrical engineer, and he had the hardest time with stats, and it was hilarious because he's like, "Hey, can you help me with my stats homework?" And I'm like, "You're an engineer. Like, why do you need my help on your stats?" He's like, "It doesn't make sense. Can I just solve for an answer?" And I'm like, "No, you can't." It's just different types of math, right? So just because you you're good at calculus doesn't necessarily mean that you can't be good at stats.
All right, next question. How are huge data sets stored and accessed? Do they hold them in a massive multi-petabyte server, or are they able to be compressed and consolidated? How do you get your data?
Oh, so I get all of my data now through APIs. So I don't actually store any of the mega data. So census data is unbelievably large. It's really hard to fathom how big it is. And Facebook and Twitter, that data is also equally like crazy large. So I don't want to store any of that. My goal is to store as little of it as possible, and instead have somebody else pay for the storage and access all of it through an API. And so it makes life a lot easier if you can do it that way. So I program up I code everything that I want to grab. I code up everything, and it's not even at this point. My data access isn't even kept as like I've got data on my hard drive. It's stored as a program that downloads the data, analyzes it, and then kicks out a result like a figure or something similar, and then deletes the underlying data. So I don't even actually store any of it locally. If I want to redo anything, I have to re-download all of the data, rerun the program. That's a very interesting question to think through.
Here's an easier one. What game is this?
This is Crypt of the
It might be
NecroDancer.
It might be time to change games. I guess we could do a survey or not. Are you interested in switching? We could switch it up a little.
Yeah, I could go up this level because I'm on level 3.
Oh no, yeah, keep playing
We're
until
about
you die.
halfway through.
Let's plan for a switch soon.
Yeah.
We do have to do a pause.
I'm judging by how often I've died. I mean,
we'll have to do a pause at the main menu for the YouTube video, but yeah, we'll switch games. We're going to Super Nintendo. Is that the plan next?
So we got to get to the menu.
Yep.
Which we have to X out and start again, right?
Yep, let's do it. Sorry, everyone. This is just for the YouTube video. We have to smile and look pretty briefly during the menu. All right, go ahead.
So I hit stop streaming, right? Real quick.
Yep, we'll do that.
I think.
And then start streaming again.
Drop off of that. I'm going to play it again in a window mode and try and do this very quickly on Discord. Because it's going to go through very fast. Where's it at?
Sorry about the pause, everyone. All right. Smile for the title screen. Super dramatic. Look at that.
I told them to drop dead.
Can you get the name of the game up? Can you skip?
It's going. It's going.
All right,
it's going.
All right,
it's got to do it.
Yeah,
we
worth
gotta
the
watch
wait.
the tension.
I mean, we should have played this at the start of the stream, probably.
Totally not Eugene. Probably Brian or maybe Brad. Because definitely not Eugene. It's definitely saying it's worth the wait.
Yeah,
look how epic it is.
That's definitely not Dr. Eugene DePrince, quantum chemist from the chemistry department. All right, there we go. Smile, YouTube video. All right, that's good enough. All right, switch games. We'll transition. Should we put up another prediction?
We could put up another prediction, sure.
Which one do you want?
I don't know.
We'll do oldest.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, we'll pop that up. Don't give any information yet. Anticipation indeed. While Matt brings up the next game. Sorry, we're transitioning. So this will be way easier in person. Right now we're doing this remotely, and so what Matt is doing is he's actually sending in signals from the comfort of his own home via Discord, so I see him and his game on camera, and I'm putting those through OBS to give you guys this information. And there's the game loading right now.
I gotta pull up my walkthrough now too.
All right,
is that
you ready?
Bad?
Your walkthrough?
Yeah, it's up.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, I gotta remember the order, you know.
Is that MegaMan? Well done, Ecstatic. Well done.
Yes.
Just from that sound alone, predicted the game. This is MegaMan X for Super Nintendo. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is MegaMan X.
Yeah, some of these noises are embedded in our brains. Speaking of which, if anyone has a good suggestion for a sound for Ask a Scientist Gaming that we can play at the start of our YouTube videos, let me know. We need a dedicated science-related sound that is open source that we can use, but is also memorable and people would recognize it, like the HBO or a Netflix or Mega Man's starting sound. So if someone has a question or a comment, please put it in chat. All right, Michael, what system is Matt playing on?
I am playing on my home PC. It's a home-built PC. I've got quad core with 4 threads each. I don't know, 32 gigs of RAM. I don't know. I should know this. I built it, and yet I don't know all of the specs. I've got solid state. I just built it relatively recently. But it's pretty good. If you go to like Reddit's build a PC, that's what I'm running, one of the budget builds.
So he's running the SNES 9 emulator to play this particular game. So if you want to play a Super Nintendo or Nintendo games, find an emulator. Ecstatic, thank you for the Amazon Prime subscription. Again, this is Jeff Bezos money, so we don't feel bad. Attach your Prime to your Twitch account and subscribe with that. It doesn't cost you anything. It just takes money away from Amazon. So please subscribe with that and pay for Matt and I to drink while playing video games. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you have a 3000 series GPU, or did you build it too early?
I do not. Is this an RTX? No, I don't. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Totally not. Eugene has a glockenspiel.
Oh, that's cool, I think.
I think that's for the sound-related things. All right.
Oh, well, a great intro that would be. It would be open source, too, so hey.
Exactly. Out of key, but that's fine. Do you have any advice for dedicating daily time to studying? Ooh, studying advice.
Yeah, I got great advice for this actually. Yeah, treat studying like a 9-to-5 job. It sounds weird to say, but think of it like you're in a job, 9 to 5, put your classes like that and so on. And then the really crazy thing is, if you do that, you'll have so much extra time to do almost anything else you want to do. Because you'll get out of class, you'll be done studying, it'll be 5 o'clock, it's like dinner time, so you're like, hey, text your friends and be like, yo, who wants to grab some dinner? Who wants to go get some CC's pizza? Who wants to do whatever? You can do that real quick, right? Whatever the kids are eating these days. And you'll have tons of time at night, and you'll have all of the weekends open as well. So I would, it's the best thing to do, is just treat school like it's a 9-to-5 job. And then when you transition into the real world, it's very easy to just keep that same schedule and just, you're now, instead of studying 9 to 5, you're working 9 to 5. If you end up in a 9 to 5. Not everyone does. And some people have it odd hours as well, and they like those. So yeah, that's exactly how I would do it. I studied really hard through grad school, but I always did it 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So I rarely studied on the weekend until I was doing my PhD. And I rarely studied at night. I was always a 9 to 5 student. And it was great. Still went to tons of parties, still did all kinds of stuff.
Ninjas, follow up with that. To branch off that, use a calendar app and set time limits for your studying, aka meeting with your books. Yeah, getting in the habit of setting a calendar is amazing. There's a book that's like advice for assistant professors, because when you're an assistant professor, your life sucks. Like, you have a lot of stuff to do and it's a lot of conflicting things. Their main advice was allocate time blocks. Like, don't pretend you're going to have a 7-hour block on a Wednesday night to write that paper, because that 7-hour block will never exist. And so you have to partition that block out throughout the semester, throughout the weeks. Like, schedule smaller time intervals that are realistic. Oh no, sorry, Matt. During the transition, we missed the survey. So the question was, what is the longest somebody has lived, greater than 120 years or less than 120 years? And 94% said greater than 120 years. What's the answer?
Yeah, 122.5.
Somebody lived for 122.5 years. Holy crap. Where were they from? Do you know any of their...
Yeah.
All right. Congratulations on your internet points, France, if you guessed greater than 120. From France. Spatter search knew
oldest
that.
person verified to ever live. Awesome.
That is crazy.
That is totally not... I know. I'm not going to dox Spatter search, but I think I know who that is.
They knew the answer, and they got their internet points. 122.5 years. So they saw a transition from the airplane to space shuttle landing on the moon to... That's crazy. That is a hell of an experience.
It's hard to believe, right? I mean...
Yeah. Aside from genetics, Bronco's question, aside from genetics, how can you live that old?
Yeah, a lot of luck. Like an awful lot of luck. She has a really great quote. I think it was on her 120th birthday, 121st birthday. They asked her what she expected out of the rest of her life, and she said a short one.
Sense of humor helps.
Yeah. So, oh man. Yeah, all about the wine and the cheese, totally, right?
All right, Matt. So I have a few questions for you. These are for me. Chat, feel free to keep putting your questions in there. If we miss one, put it again. I think we've gotten everyone, but if we miss one, we apologize. So this one's for me again. I'm a huge movie buff. I've seen over 5,000 movies on Netflix. What movie or TV show gets your discipline right, which gets it wrong? And so that could be either sociologists, that could be use of big data statistics.
I don't know. Man, this is a tough one. So there's not a lot of demography in movies. Oh, I'll get it. Actually, no, I'm wrong. There's tons of demography in movies, and it's all totally wrong, actually.
All right.
It's all totally wrong. There's so many movies that are like the world is overpopulated and like it's environmental degradation like mad. Like this is a big Hollywood trope, right? It's like the world is awful right now because there's so many people in the world. It's very Malthusian as we would describe it, right? And it's probably not going to happen. Like the world is probably not going to be overpopulated like that and go through all sorts of issues. It's going to have problems, but not more than likely not because of overpopulation. So they get it very, very wrong on the basic premise of movies and TV shows and so on.
Does anyone get it right?
So like, I want to say Children of Men, but that's still post-apocalyptic and is pretty much like no. But I liked it because it was like about birth rates, right? Like people are not having more and more kids.
So you're on record right now saying post-apocalyptic is not going to happen?
No, post-apocalyptic can happen, right? Like McCarthy's The Road, right, kind of thing. Like you can have post-apocalyptic world, just not without the Malthusian tropes.
I see.
Right?
I see.
That's what's driving it is too many people, and we gotta like eat people, like in Soylent Green or something like that. Not the case.
I gotta change
But
the
there's
title.
so many of them.
You're playing. This is MegaMan X. Is that right?
Yeah, this is now MegaMan X.
All right. I will change our title screen in case anyone's interested.
I'm gonna get the dash legs right here so I can move fast.
Nice upgrade.
Yeah, this is a good upgrade. It comes base in MegaMan X2. See, there we go. Look at that.
So Spatter wants to know, what does Matt think about Children of Men?
It was a good movie when I watched it, years ago. I thought it was great. Hopefully Spatter Search liked it. I'm assuming. Hopefully, maybe not. I don't know. It was a good one. It was a good movie. And I thought it was interesting that you have people that aren't having kids anymore. So it's kind of like a post-apocalyptic world where fertility rates are falling as opposed to increasing, which is, a really nice, different take on it. And that's much more likely is that we end up with fertility that's low, like super low as opposed to super high, and we end up with too many people.
All right, Scab Edge wants to know, Professor Hauer, do you know anything about FSU Applied American Politics and Policy Masters?
I don't. Should I? Should I be aware of it? I don't.
Yeah, what's unfortunate is we're pretty insular in our own individual departments and don't know much beyond it. It's kind of tragic.
Hopefully it's great.
Yeah.
I wish I knew more. I don't know anything else about it.
I like FSU in general.
Yeah, so it's probably great.
Oh man, Lena has requested another factoid.
Another factoid?
Do you have another one? I'm gonna run and get a beer while you're doing this, and I'll be right back.
Maybe I do. Let me think about this. A good factoid. A good demography factoid. Let's see. Okay, here's one. It's kind of mathy, but kind of not at the same time. Maybe not. I don't know if I want to do that now. Let's see. Oh, here we go. The highest population density in the world, so the most dense place ever, was the walled city of Kowloon outside of Hong Kong, which I can't remember the density off the top of my head. It was like 30,000 people a square mile or something, I want to say, or higher, square kilometer. So it was very, very dense. And it's demolished now. And there was a couple really interesting movies about Kowloon, and I think there was a game in development about Kowloon as well. Clean boss fight, thank you. Yeah, I was actually really good. This is the best I've ever played. Maybe I've got some liquid courage. Maybe I've been practicing and I'm not so rusty anymore. Let's see here. So that was Chill Penguin, one of my favorites. I'm gonna hit up Bark Mandrill next. Well, I mean, Kowloon's outside of Hong Kong, so it's kind of China, right? It's China-ish. At the time, it was a British possession, but now, right, it's not. Obviously, it's a part of China. But yeah, it was very, very dense. It's really cool. If you're fascinated by that kind of thing, I strongly suggest. Oh, I should have done this guy later. He's much easier the second time around. Why am I doing Spark Mandrill now? I shouldn't have done him. His level's a lot easier when you don't have these little spark things flying around attacking you. New patterns. Oh, geographic movements. Yeah, I mean, we have some now that are, there's a bit of a back to the city movement, right? It's occurring. Though it's gotten less play because it's not quite happening. That was emerging in the mid 2000s, but so basically, right, you have the proliferation of the suburb that occurs for like the entire 20th century in the United States, and you had people kind of moving backwards to the city, right? So from the suburb back to the city in the mid 2000s, but they're not doing that as much as people thought they were. So that was sort of semi short-lived. And then, oh dang, I missed that one. And then COVID happened, and so now it's definitely the opposite, right? Like people are leaving the cities in some ways and going to the suburbs. So that it's not really lasting as long as it would have otherwise. But that was definitely rather unexpected. People thought that the continuation of the suburb was going to happen sort of indefinitely.
All right, a few questions. Have you played Dark Souls or anything from Software?
What is like? Isn't this software?
Is that a company?
Yeah, I don't know what software. Oh, dang it!
That might have been a autocorrect. Have you played Dark Souls?
I have not played Dark Souls. Is it good? Should I play it? I guess yes, if you're asking that, huh?
They want to know, or they want to see you get wrecked on stream. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a notoriously hard game.
Oh, it's notoriously hard. Yeah, I don't really like. Well, I guess this isn't like notoriously hard. But this is a difficult game.
And Dark Souls isn't even that hard. Like there are ROM hacks for Mario that are harder than Dark Souls. I'm gonna say it right now. Like there are really hard games. They're just not super popular. But that's a super popular, difficult game.
Yeah, I've never played it. Don't drop those bombs on me.
All right, Spatter Search wants to know what's up with the 2020 census. Talked about it briefly earlier. Is there any general thoughts?
Oh, I got it.
Nice.
That was a really hard jump. I couldn't do that until just now, actually. I've never actually done that jump. Well, I mean, maybe I did when I was younger. Like, what thoughts in general? Like, how many people we're going to have, or...
That's true. Might have to be more specific, Spatter Search.
Yeah. Give me a good one. How many congressional seats is Florida going to gain? I mean...
All of the above. They just want interesting information on the census.
Yeah, I mean the census is cool, right? So this was a new census. Well, it was a new implementation. This was the first time that we had primary collections through internet, right? So through internet response, people responding via the internet. Otherwise, it was almost entirely pen and paper, and then people actually going to your house and responding. I think I need shotgun ice for this guy. So it's a new one. It's cool. It's good, right? I think it's great that the census is modernizing. I don't know what else. I mean, oh no! He's gonna get me. Not nearly as clean as Chill Penguin. Oh, maybe so. Look at this. Sorry, I can't concentrate while I try and get this guy.
Focus.
No! Oh! You got me.
The death yell was perfect. Somebody wouldn't mind clipping that. That was a perfect moment.
It's going to be the Wilhelm scream in the future, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what sound we'll use for future Ask a Scientist gamings. Michael Buka, thank you for the follow. Enjoy your standard internet units, which will bet on questions sometime in the near future.
So yeah, I mean, the Decennial Census is pretty good. It's good this time. I'm glad they didn't do the citizenship question, like I said, but they could have. I guess they could have if they absolutely had to. There's no reason, I guess, why not. in statutes. It's just that they'd had no testing actually for it, and it was really not needed because it's already collected otherwise.
Right.
And then the COVID was great too. Like the census did a great job on the actual census itself, and the field workers did great through COVID. I mean, I can't even imagine, like having to go to people's houses in the midst of it all with all that uncertainty and trying to respond, get them to respond. Especially crazy people, like the people who are like, sorry if you're one of them, but essentially one of those ones that are like, I'm not going to respond to the census. Why are they asking me these questions, kind of thing?
I don't think you have to apologize to them. No, we're not going to apologize. Answer your census questions.
Is it the internet?
Yeah, exactly. No, we will get political on this channel. We don't try to stay apolitical. All right. Michael has a question. How will society be different post-COVID? Big question.
Yeah, that is a big question. I mean, we're definitely seeing, I don't know, we might see more permanent, some of these movements that might be a bit more permanent. I gotta wait for an extra year of data to really see, like, whether or not people are going to be forever out of New York or something like that. I think some of the more permanent ones might be San Francisco, just because of the cost of living, as opposed to New York. New York has a lot more amenities that you don't necessarily have in the Bay Area, and the cost of living is just totally crazy there. So that one might be a bit more permanent. We'll probably see new data systems, and for sure the way that the vaccines were generated. I don't know. We'll see little things. It'll probably be a lot more common to see people going through airports wearing masks than you saw before. I know we talked about this earlier, but for those that joined a bit later, we're going to have our right to cough on somebody again. So that's definitely going to be more permanent, I think. At least even if you individually decide not to mask up through, and I'm not saying you should, we're going to see more of that, I think, or more accepted. Like, oh yeah, well they might be sick, they might be worried, they're going to fly on an airplane with a mask on. I'm not sure if fertility rates have fallen. Dang, that guy got me right then. I'm not sure if they'll stay low. And it's not just because of I'm getting beat up right there. I'm totally gonna die right here. Dang it.
Man, we should have
talking
done
about COVID got all distracted. I need to do a cheat code.
We should have done a prediction on this level. Do you want to put in a Game Genie code? We could do a prediction.
It's clearly not it. I'm not sure if fertility rates will stay low because of economic problems. Right? That's one of the main areas that I think COVID changes are affecting people's fertility behaviors. Like, it's not a good time to start a family because of all the economic uncertainty. This wheelie guy got me. That's a good question, though.
So we had a transition here. We didn't talk about this game. So this is MegaMan X. Super Nintendo came out in, I don't know the actual number, probably
1992 maybe?
Yeah, somewhere
94?
Early to mid 90s. So this was, where in your lifetime did you start playing this? This would have been,
I was totally in elementary school.
And this was one that was burnt in your memory from playing it.
Oh yeah, this
hours
was totally
and hours.
one. Yeah. Dang it. Getting beat up by these like guys. I was doing so good the first time. And then I got kind of distracted. It was like just non-stop getting killed. Oh man, now I got to try and beat this guy. How many lives do I got left? I got one. All right.
So for those of you that aren't familiar with the Mega Man series, it started with Nintendo, and there were 6 games, Mega Man 1 through 6 for the Nintendo, and Super Nintendo came out and released a bunch of them. I don't actually know where they are now, but they have to be up there a ways with the Mega Man series. Released in December 1993. So yeah, good guess on the timeline on that.
Yeah?
All right, we'll do one more question, and then we'll do a prediction. So Bronco wants to know, historically, what are some of the highest percentage of mass exodus out or in of an area?
Oh, out or in? Oh, the percentages. I don't know. Boy, that's a good question. You got it. Well, there's huge ones, right? So Ireland had a huge one. The Irish potato famine was a big exodus out. Very large. Whoa, that took off. What? Oh, I disappeared.
Oh, Hamsterlicious,
you've
thank
got
you for your
Syria.
Prime subscription. We really appreciate it. Again, paying for beer money, we really appreciate your contribution. All right, sorry, Matt, go ahead.
Oh, I gotta get some Game Genie codes here. Give myself.
So go under cheats. All right, we're going to set up a prediction right now then, while Matt gets his Game Genie code. For those of you not familiar with Game Genie, when we used to have cartridges you have to put in a console, you would basically have this intercepting electronic device called Game Genie, and it would basically change the inputs into the console, and it would make the console think there were more lives or more power or more energy or various manipulations of the game code. And so this is how we cheated back in the day.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I don't think
Right,
I don't think it was ever licensed by Nintendo. Like Nintendo was never a fan, or Sega or any of those guys. It was a third party supplier.
Here we go. 10 lives.
10 lives? You're not going for
so
infinite?
10 lives. No, I got faith. I got faith that I can do this in better. I don't even know if it did it. Like I never had a Game Genie for Super Nintendo, and it didn't work with Sega Channel, so I never really had a Game Genie when I was younger. Let's see if I have. I've got 2 lives, so let's see.
All right, we've
Let's
popped
put
a
this back in
prediction
again.
up on the screen. The question is, what is the highest fertility rate average? And this is the highest fertility rate for a particular demographic group, right?
Yeah, for any population.
For any population of
highest
people,
reported.
what's the highest fertility rate on average? Is it greater than 8, less than 8? That means every female that's capable of reproduction averages higher than 8 or less than 8 children. And that's a crazy number, but this is the highest of all time. Or the highest current rate or the highest ever?
Highest ever recorded, yeah.
Highest fertility rate ever recorded. Was it greater than 8 or less than 8 per reproductive female or reproductive capable female? Is that encompasses this question? That explained it, Matt?
Yeah, how many, like, on average for their kids, right? Yeah.
That's average, too. Keep in mind, there are people that do not have kids.
And the mini-boss kills me here.
Spend your
This guy
imaginary internet points now. You have 1 minute. Click on that prediction button and spend your points. If you're not following, you get 300 imaginary points, and it builds up from there. And you can use these to make us drink. You can request a factoid. You can highlight your message. Yeah, super important gambling on the internet. Highest fertility rate average, greater than 8, less than 8 children per reproductive female. Reproductive capable female.
Got me.
Did you first try him last time?
I was like doing really good before.
Yeah.
I might change the levels. I might have to change levels. I might have to do Launch Octopus. I'm gonna try this one guy again, and then I'm gonna go to Launch, because Launch Octopus breaks his level if I remember right. So it makes it a lot easier. And it sounds weird, but all the levels, like, it's kind of really good game design. The levels will change depending on who you played before you get to it. It's kind of like adaptive design, but back before it existed.
All right, betting is closed. Highest fertility rate on average, greater than 8 or less than 8? What's the answer?
10.09.
Greater than 8. So of that particular subpopulation, they averaged 10 children per female capable of reproduction. That is insane. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, that's a religious sect in the early part of the 20th century called the Hutterites, which are kind of like the Amish in the Midwest. And they really took forth Abraham's law that you should go, or the God to Abraham that you should go forth and multiply. They were like, we are totally going to do that. And so women in that population had about 10 kids per woman in her lifetime.
Reese's Pieces. I knew someone who was the youngest of 26 children.
That's
so many
I can't even
kids.
imagine. Man, that's like, jeez.
This is
like the
blowing my
Dugars.
mind. Averaging that, like you have almost an entire football team amongst your kids. Like that's
Yeah.
crazy. The neighborhood parties and like kids playing outside. That one of 9
then think
children,
about-
averaging
think about
10.
Grandkids. Yeah, and like how long that would take too, right? So think. You got to think, right?
Yeah,
Man.
that's insane. Absolutely mind blowing.
Would I get a shout out from my class, right? SYD 3020. Hopefully everyone's here. We can decompress with this on Tuesday. Talk about it some.
Yeah.
Not for too long though, because we're
That
taking
pretty
a big turn
much means she stayed pregnant for a decade. Yes, on average. Like
on average.
some of them had 20, some of them had 0. That is crazy. That's my new favorite factoid, by the way. How big was
Yeah?
that population? Like it's a sect
it's-
of.
Yeah, it's not as big as you'd think, but given that their fertility rates, but still pretty large.
We're talking 1,000 people.
Oh, way more than that. Yeah, way more than 1,000. It's probably 100,000 or more by the time they were big. I don't know if you Google the Hooterites, you'll find out info about them.
Ooh,
see.
Hamsterlicious follow-up.
The seminal paper was. Yeah.
Were there above average rates of twins and triplets, or was this just natural statistics and pure attrition?
That is a good question.
Oh,
I don't know if they're. So I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. The correct answer. There had to have been, right? Like just numerically, like it's just got to happen. Just like from like I don't know, logistics standpoint. I don't know how to put it. You know, like it had to have been. It's impossible otherwise.
yeah, that's pretty
Too early.
mind-blowing.
Come here.
All right, Bronco wants to know, what are some events that could lower ocean levels? For example, an ice age, would that help?
Yeah, an ice age would do that somewhat. Oh boy, am I gonna do it here? Oh, I got him! Yes. All right.
Nice, well done.
Got Spark Mandrill that time. He's a tough one, but I had his weakness, ice. Who would have known that the weakness of the Mandrill would have been ice, right? Thank you, Mega Man. Yeah, so an ice age would be one. That's pretty much the only way that we could do it. Cooling would do it as well, just because of thermal expansion of the water. That would also be a thing that could help lower sea levels. But we could take water out as well and like I guess store seawater somewhere, like in a reservoir on land. Historically, there was an event called Meltwater Pulse 1A and 1B, where basically sea levels rose really, really rapidly, and it's hypothesized that part of the reason why is because it was a great start. Was because water was behind something, and then it was sort of like in a reservoir, and then boom, the reservoir broke and it drained out. Like maybe in the imagine the Mediterranean at Gibraltar being blocked and levels being really high, like on the natural dam, and then it breaks, and then all of a sudden, right, water spills out for a century long. That kind of thing. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, there's a couple ways we might theoretically be able to reduce it as well, aside from that. That's what I wanted to do. Where we could, like pump water up to Antarctica through geoengineering and basically freeze it in Antarctica. But that involves sort of like an artificial kind of ice age. Let's see if I can beat him in time. Can I do it? I can't because I'm going to get these little guys in the way. All right, extra life.
Michael has a question for both of us. Favorite film genre and favorite film?
Favorite film genre. Hey, you go first, Ken. I want to hear yours.
So I I really like scary movies, or at least I used to. My wife doesn't like them, so for about 15 years I have not seen as many scary movies as I would have liked to. I actually piecewise go through and watch them in 15-minute intervals as she's reading to the kids. So it's not the best subversive experience, but I do like the scary movie genre. The one that really, like, one of the early ones when I was in high school was the Blair Witch Project. And so for those of you that don't know, this was an amazing phenomena pre-internet, well, early internet at least, where they were basically trying to sell this scary phenomena as a true story. And it was like, you know, is it real? Is it not real? It was just, it's an amazing, not just movie in itself. I love the movie because it never shows the bad guy. Sorry, spoilers for a 30-year-old movie, but watch the Blair Witch Project in the context of, you know, we didn't know if it was real or not. They advertised it as being based on a true story, and it was recovered footage, and this was pre, you know, any of that genre. It started that. And so that's one of my favorites because it really reshaped the way people did movies and advertising. So yeah, classic. Heredity.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Heredity is just kind of discomfort porn. Like, you have to be like uncomfortable the entire time watching it because all the characters are kind of okay but kind of bad. Like, it's weird. Yes, Con Air based on a true story. True. Heredity.
Oh man.
I think that the director of Heredity is coming out with a new one sometime soon. I can't remember the name of it. Or maybe it just came out. I don't know. Again, I'm behind the loop because I don't get to watch scary movies as much. Anyway, Matt, your favorite genre and favorite movie?
So I really like sci-fi movies, and my favorite movie is not sci-fi. Well, it kind of pseudo is Big Trouble in Little China with Kurt Russell.
Have you seen it recently? It has not aged as well as the other movies have.
I don't know what you're talking about. That movie is an absolute masterpiece. So.
It is a good movie. I'll give you that.
I mean, the special effects are terrible, and they were terrible back in the day too. So, but it's like a kung fu kind of sci-fi kind of horror kind of movie. It's great.
Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
There we go. Scuzzbot has a link up in the chat if you guys want to check it out. It's worth watching. Make no mistake. It might be mildly racist. Totally I don't remember. It was the late 80s, early 90s. When did that come out?
Yeah, I think 86, I want to say.
Holy crap, you guessed correctly, sir. 1986,
I did?
Big Trouble in Little China. Exactly right.
Yeah, I know. That's my movie, man. Oh, what? He didn't get zapped? What in the world? How did he block that? Don't do it.
July 1986. Well done. It is an entertaining movie. It's absolutely absurd.
No way. You can't block that, I didn't think. I had no idea that you couldn't.
All right, we'll jump back to the science questions. Other than fixing COVID, what research or scientific project would you most like to see the government surge in funding?
Yeah, I mean, I would absolutely love to see more stuff on climate migration in particular. Of course, that's my area, so of course biased. I want more funding there. But I mean, it's a big challenge. Understanding it, where it's going to be, where people are going to go, who's most likely to go, who's most likely to stay. All those things are still thresholds. So, understanding at which point people actually make a decision to migrate. All those things are just critical that we just don't know very well. So yeah, selfishly, it would be climate migration where I study.
Put my swag in as a point. Do your models take into account migration to Mars?
No. That's a great question, but no. They would if Elon Musk wanted to fund me, then they would. So.
And would say everyone's going to Mars.
Yeah, pretty close, yeah. So long as they could afford it, yes. Or they fit within his target demographic.
All right, pause. In relation to Big Trouble in Little China, Hamsterlicious, I have an autographed lithograph from David Lopan, that's James Hahn, from Comic-Con a few years ago.
That's amazing.
I'm genuinely... He was in so many movies. Just he was in so many.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say
That
that.
movie's got so many great like quotes in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so silly and at the same time so good.
It's Kurt Russell, quintessential 80s, just every cliche in the book and the stylizing and the shots. It's just, yeah. It captures, it's a time capsule of existence. It's amazing.
And it's like a Western sci-fi kung fu horror movie. Like, you don't know what's going to happen next because you're like, what the heck?
Yeah. Like,
and the quotes are great. He's got really great quotes in it, like Kurt Russell does. Lopan has great quotes in it. I mean, it's just awesome. It's just great 80s action. Bad 80s action, I should say.
Yeah. Anyone that says there's no new storylines has not seen enough Big Trouble in Little China. It's absurd.
It's so absurd, and that's what makes it so great. Oh, I nailed him before he came out.
Jack Burton, ready? I was born ready. Absolutely perfect. All right, enough movie questions. Any science-related questions? Let's pick Matt Hauer's brain. We have an expert in sociology, climate change as it affects demographic changes. Does anyone have questions? Throw them in chat right now. If not, I have a few questions I can ask. Where will people move as sea level rises?
Yeah, I tried to cover this earlier. This is a great question, and it's sort of understanding where people are most likely to go. And so, I mean, overall, like, people are going to go essentially everywhere. So after Katrina, for instance, some people, most people moved to, like, who left New Orleans, went to Baton Rouge and Atlanta and Houston and Dallas. But some people moved to Syracuse, New York, and some people moved, like, really far. And you're like, why would anybody move there? And I mean, I don't know. Somebody did, right? Because that's how the world operates, somewhat pseudo-random. So, where people are going to move from because of sea level rise, like, some people will essentially, at least one person will probably move everywhere. But that the balance of people are most likely to end, in the United States at least, are likely to end up in places like Atlanta and Charlotte and Austin and DC and Phoenix, and sort of like close by but not exactly close, like not exactly coastal locations that are sort of like major cities. I forgot, Orlando would be another one. Sort of like major cities that they've already like have friends and family that have gone to. So it's not like any one place is going to be like the majority. I mean, there's a couple that are like likely to see large inflows, but yeah, it'll end up being like everywhere.
So Kinnerly and Spatter Search have related questions. Have you noticed an increase in migration towards colder places due to increasing temperatures? And Spatter Search, will all of Canada move north?
We'll move north, yeah. They got to get even colder, right? Yeah.
Well, most of Canada lives like within 100 miles of the U.S., right? It's like 90% or something live within very close distance.
Yeah. I don't think we've seen any like major reverse migration back north yet, but I don't think that we we could rule it out as like a possibility. But I think we are already starting to see the seeds of people moving to like new Sunbelt locations, or what will end up being like the new Sunbelt, I guess, in a lot of ways. And that's like the Asheville's and in places like that, the Tennessee and so on, that'll emerge as like new gateways in the future that aren't gateways now, if that makes sense. So those are starting to crop up. The Portland site, that would be another one. It's like emerging. Like there's, oh man, what did I get hit by as I'm going down? I got hit by he bombed me on my way down. But they're not all the way developed yet. Like they haven't fully sort of like come of position. But not quite cold migration yet. So like if Atlanta is a current, in Austin and stuff like that, are current major destinations, they probably won't be in the future. Instead, we'll start to see places like Charlotte really start to take off, or Asheville, or some of the Tennessee cities. the next sort of northern tier of Sunbelt. I'm less familiar with the West, because I never lived out west.
So follow-up seems like it's related from Bronco. With increasing populations and presumably temperature-related migrations, do you think we'll eventually make Antarctica habitable?
Ooh, I don't know. That's a really good question too. I don't know if Antarctica will ever actually be habitable, but oh man, it got me right then. I mean, it's a possibility, right? We could kind of terraform it in a lot of ways and make it happen. But I don't mean we'd have to really come out of the current temperatures. It would have to be a major increase for that to occur. And then there's no guarantee that it's going to have the soil would actually be farmable, right? Or why we would actually live in Antarctica otherwise. You know, it's sort of subject to a lot of different weird weather patterns as well. So I don't know. I mean, it's possible. I mean, I'm not going to say it's impossible, or it might be unlikely to actually emerge on that level. That's a cool thought, though.
All right, so there's one I missed earlier, and I should have followed up on our 2100 population of approximately 11 billion, 10.8, I think was the answer. Is there a hypothetical population limit for humans on Earth? Is there one we're approaching or one we could support?
Yeah, this is a great question, and I'm going to say no. I don't think that there is a hypothetical limit. It sounds weird to say that, but given like ecologists are like, well, every other population has one, but like humans are weird because we don't actually like we can change our environment, and we exist in environments that are far outside of our normal comfort zones all over the world. You know, like people live in very mountainous areas and very cold areas and very dry areas and very hot areas, right? So we can adapt to our current environment on a level that most species can't, and we can terraform. So we can make it actually work. You know, we change our farming practices or our diet, what we eat dietarily, right, depending upon our local environment. So I'm very skeptical that there's an actual upper limit of humanity that exists that we could have. We could always, you know, do something else, change things in a certain way to support more people, and we in fact have throughout almost all of human history. So if there is a limit that exists, you know, we probably are going to be beyond it, or we could get beyond it, right? Like if there's too many people and there's too much degradation in the world, right, we might end up just going to another planet, in which case, you know, how much can the Earth hold? Well, we might have reached it then, but we'd be somewhere else.
All right, Bland Molecule wants to know, so China gets a bad rap for dictating the number of children allowed in a family. I know a lot of terrible things came from this, but is there any merit to the idea of restricting overpopulation for the betterment of resources and quality of life?
Yeah,
heavy question. So while he's playing the boss, I can answer from secondary sources. I mean, one of the big things that controls population is educating females. Yeah. Like, it's crazy. There's a proportionality between the number of females that graduate with a high school or college degree and the reproductive rates. And so basically any society that had a high reproductive rate, as soon as you educate the female population, that number goes down. And so I think that's where those plateau numbers come from, right? The 11 billion or 10 billion type numbers.
Yeah, female empowerment plays a really large role in terms of limiting those. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. You know, I would say that probably not. That the one-child policy was rather unnecessary to begin with. Like China's fertility rates were already falling, so it was probably an ill-conceived policy. But aside from that, there's not really much. Like, yeah, you can do all sorts of, as Ken just said, like you can do. Oh man, I got lucky right there.
Oh, nice.
I was really lucky. You can do all sorts of
done.
Whew, yeah, that was close. You can do all sorts of other policies to reduce fertility and reduce population growth without having to have these sort of draconian measures. So there was an Indian prime minister in the 60s that was real famous for who coined a phrase, which is basically the development is the best form of contraception. That if we just sort of have better economic development, we allow a better status for women, less of a major patriarchal society, then fertility rates will come down and we'll end up with lower population growth. And that's exactly what's happened in India. I mean, it's still very patriarchal. It still is not, a great place for women, but it's considerably better than where it was 50 or 60 years ago.
Yeah, so a comment from Put My Swaggin. Even if you have less people on Earth, classism still rules, and wealthy people will use, while lower class are going to go 0, 0, 0. I assume you're saying that wealthier people tend to have a bigger carbon footprint than, say, poor people, which makes sense. It's true.
Yeah, it is definitely true. You just look at what transcontinental air rides and stuff, right? Who's most likely to use those? It's definitely wealthy people, and those use up a ton of carbon budget. So yeah, it's not just the number of mouths, but also, I don't want to use the term quality, but like how much people actually consume, the consumption practices of those individuals. Because even with like China and India and the United States, the U.S. has a third of the population, a quarter of the population of those countries, and yet our carbon footprint is much larger because the average American consumes so much more than the average Indian or the average Chinese.
Man, there was a fairly recent Reddit post about Prince William. It showed one of his old tweets that was like something along the lines of population control is a good thing and we have too many people for our resources. But then there was a recent announcement that he had his wife is pregnant with their 4th child. That kid will consume more, have a bigger carbon footprint than thousands of poor people. Like just in terms of resource consumption for a royalty.
Yeah, probably 1 billion people consume less than that person.
That maybe individual, not 1 billion, but a lot.
Couple, that individual. Clearly, like a couple million. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's the thing that the population bomb stuff in the '60s that always killed me is that we're in the midst of what we call the baby boom in American history, and yet you're telling people to have fewer kids in Africa and stuff, and I was always like, well, it's not very good. That doesn't look very good, Paul Ehrlich, who's the one who wrote the book. Telling people in Africa and Asia to have fewer kids, and we're in the midst of a baby boom. You're not telling Americans necessarily to have fewer kids. I don't know. It makes me a little uncomfortable, man. So a little casual racism in a lot of ways. So yeah, and that happens, in terms of, dang it, this guy right here is annoying. He's got this this mace thing that kills me every time. I can skip this guy right here, the second one, but I can't skip the first one.
It is amazing. When was the last time you played this game seriously?
Last week.
Prior to that.
But, I don't know, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, maybe?
And this stuff is still embedded in your brain.
Yeah. When did this game come out? There you go. I can skip all these guys, but they're much more fun to kill. I think we had this number earlier.
It was like
93 or something?
Yeah, something like that. All right, Lena wants to know, after seeing Texas and how they were not prepared for heavy winter, will there be changes in infrastructure?
There better be. Right? Man, if Texas doesn't get their act together with that's bad.
Yeah.
But, there's all sorts of examples where people don't actually get their act together after a terrible situation. I mean, people moved right back to New Orleans, and I would say that was probably you have place attachment. You have great memories of New Orleans, but that was probably a poor long-term decision just in general.
Fair critique.
So hopefully people will put pressure to actually modernize some of the different things in their infrastructure in Texas and make it so this doesn't happen again. Or if it does happen, they're at least in some ways kind of prepared for it. It's like when I was in Atlanta when Snowmageddon happened, and so That was really nuts. Like the city was so unprepared for 2 inches of snow, and people were trapped on the highway and stuff. And thankfully, there was some responses to it, and that didn't happen again. But they also haven't had 2 inches of snow. So how often is Texas going to get this again? You kind of play the numbers in some cases, in some ways, you know. But hopefully they'll do more for distributed infrastructure, for distributed power, and so on.
Makes sense. All right. It's been a while since I did a reminder. For anyone just joining us, I'm Ken Hansen, Associate Professor of Chemistry and Biochemistry, but more importantly, joining me is Matt Hauer, sociologist who studies big data related to climate change and how it affects demographic changes like life expectancy, population migrations, all sorts of statistics. So if you have any questions, Zientra Manes, thank you for following us. If you have questions, throw them in chat right now. We're happy to answer them. Put My Swaggin has a question: who uses the most resources like coal, gas, etc.?
That I don't know.
I think you have to break it down per capita or total population. Per capita, it's got to be the U.S.
The U.S. is one of the per capita is got to be the U.S.
Yeah.
In terms of in terms of totals, the U.S. might be close still, but is losing ground in terms of totals.
Yeah,
to
China and India. Yeah.
Which are really coming up. Dang it, I'm having a hard time right here. I'm like getting killed by these guys like crazy.
Bronco has a related question. Thoughts on Bitcoin being the top 30 energy consumer if it were a country? Is that crazy?
Yeah, right? Yeah. Oh, man. So, all this idea like, oh, well, technology is like a great solution for some of these, but, well, maybe we have technology that also makes us be much larger consumers as well, which is odd to think through. Yeah, I see that and I'm like, oh, cryptocurrency. And then I think of cryptocurrency bros and I'm like, man, maybe Bitcoin's not so good.
Man, I remember hearing, it must have been 15 years ago when someone was like, they're mining Bitcoin. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. But now if they save that, they're billionaires. Like, it's crazy.
Well,
or at least millionaires if they sold right.
Yeah, if they sold right.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that was... I miss the Bitcoin wave. But, it is really nuts to think through.
Oh, that's interesting. Gamer Girl Lou had Dr. Hansen last semester and taking SYD with Dr. Hauer currently.
Hey, look at that.
Oh, that's madness.
Serendipity.
Yeah, no, welcome to the stream. I hope you enjoyed my class and are enjoying Dr. Hauer's class, but what major are you? That's
that's wild.
Yeah, that's an interesting. Environmental science might be a good one. Ninja Physics, what do you think about heat pump or geothermal heating and cooling?
Great. I think it's good. Any kind of alternative energy is going to be awesome, and that's what we need to start moving toward relatively rapidly. So yeah, that's good. That's a good thing. Let's get more of it.
Short answer, do more. That's the answer. Like, I work in solar cells, and a lot of people in my community say solar is the answer, and you only need a certain patch of land in Arizona to consume or generate enough energy for all the Earth's population. That is completely unrealistic. It is going to be a combination of everything. Geothermal, nuclear, solar, wind, everything. It has to... It depends on where you are and what the source is and how much storage you need. Like, the answer is all of it. So, yes, it needs to be... it needs to be everything together. And anyone that tells you they have the answer is lying to you. Short of cold fusion. If they figure that out, that'll be a different story. But, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's got to be the combination. It can't be just one.
Yeah. That makes sense. All right, Reese's Pieces. What kind of analysis techniques do you use for large data sets? What kind of math do you use?
So it's shockingly basic. And depending on what it's going to analyze and the type of data set that I have, but It's not. I don't think that the math involved in large data sets is necessarily complex. I mean, it can be. You know, you could use machine learning algorithms and stuff on it, but it doesn't have to be. And oftentimes, simple descriptive analysis, which just uses real basic counts and rates, can get you really far and tell you a lot about a population or a group or a thing or a phenomena. And that one's getting me every time. I've been killed on the same spot like 5 times in a row on this level. So it's really not too complicated. It can get complicated. It's sort of like, how complicated do you want to get? But I think of a lot of things, like math being one of them, kind of like you're running a race, right? And you want to time yourself, or you want to measure that in some way. So for most people, if you're running a race, like a simple hand stopwatch is going to be good enough. Like, you don't need anything more complex than that. But that's probably not going to be okay, at a high school track meet already, right? Like, just somebody clicking their watches might not be all right. But then, for other times it might be. And then if you're like running the 40 time at the NFL Combine, you definitely need a laser timed measurement tool, right? So it's a much more complex timekeeping apparatus that's involved in making it work. And that might even work all the way up to Usain Bolt. But then if you get to the Large Hadron Collider, and that's not even good enough. Like, now you need like a really complex timekeeping mechanism to actually figure out what's going on with the particles. So I think of a lot of math like that. Like, you can get really far with just simple, basic techniques. The thing of a hand stopwatch. But not every time. You don't always need that. Sometimes you do need really complex stuff, like different types of machine learning algorithms, or more complex, more abstract math. So I really lean towards simple, because I think it's really easy to communicate, and I have such large data sets usually that simplicity, they lend themselves to simplicity. But if I'm doing something that's going to be more complex, like modeling migration decisions for sea level rise, the math can get almost as complicated as you want. And it could be simulation-based and agent-based modeling and microsim and all sorts of different stuff. I just threw out a whole bunch of different words, so I know those concepts can be different.
Joe Lumberjack, thank you for the follow. Follow-up question for you, Matt. What's your favorite equation?
So I thought about this, and I thought, okay, what is the best demographic equation I could think of? And I think that the best one, that my favorite, has got to be the easiest one at the same time. That guy came out of nowhere. And that's going to be what's called the demographic accounting equation, which is so beautiful in its simplicity. It's just simple arithmetic, but it can become so complicated if you want it to be. So the demographic accounting equation is an ironclad sort of equation in demography, where it's ironclad because there's nothing else. Like, it is literally everything. If you want to know the population in the future, it's at any point in the future, all you need to know the exact number for that is the population today plus the births minus the deaths plus the in migrants minus the out migrants. And if you know those 5 variables, you correctly know what it is. There's no other way that a population can ever change. Like, you can't birth 12-year-olds or something like that, right? They have to be migrants. And so that equation, which is like ludicrously easy, is also like exactly the way it mimics exactly the fundamental processes of populations. So you can get really far, and you can make it really complicated as well, if you want. But that is the foundation of demography, is that equation. It's taught at undergrad demography. I teach in undergrad demography. Almost any opening demography article actually like always reprints that equation, even though all the demographers are like, well, yeah, it's the fundamental equation. So it's rather amusing to me sometimes.
That's awesome.
Who doesn't know this? Why are you putting this on the first paragraph?
All right, to
Like,
that,
everybody knows this equation.
A Rob has redeemed take a drink, so take a drink to that. Thank you for the demographic accounting equation. Is that what it was called?
Yeah, it's really simple and basic.
That's awesome. All right, so follow up on big data sets. Does the noise from such large data sets naturally lead to normal distributions?
Depending upon the variable, yes, but not always. Like, I guess you could most of them are going to be log normal, if not. Yeah, I mean that's the beautiful thing, right? About having such a large data is that you get normal distributions. Or at the bare minimum, you get log normal distributions.
All right, Spatter Search wants to know who's most at risk for sea level rise, like demographic group wise. Who's most at risk?
So in the U.S., this is going to be so non-white Hispanic populations. It's also going to who are going to be most at risk in the U.S. I probably hazard a guess and say that that's probably the case globally, just given global population patterns. For sure with aging, but I'm not so sure with race, just because the differential between like Ho Chi Minh City and the Netherlands is pretty large, right? Like the Netherlands are really at risk. Ho Chi Minh City is really at risk. Most population growth in the world is in the global south, but not all global south cities are actually at like heightened risk to sea level rise. Man, everyone's seen me play this level like 50 times.
No pressure.
Speedrun that so guy. Now I'm gonna get spiked right here. I know it. I'm gonna get spiked. These guys are gonna get me.
Do you want to do like infinite energy? Do you want to hammer through this game in the next 30 minutes?
I have to. Jeez.
I mean, you might as well.
The world record's 30 minutes. You know, for beating the whole game.
That's crazy.
I just need Boomer Quanger so I can this guy right here so I can go backwards. I made it to him, but.
I mean, you could put in the infinite energy or whatever codes right now, and they'll implement immediately. It's not like the original.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you've got a lot more experience cheating than I do.
Oh yeah,
no, we Game Genie.
I've hosted many people on here that cheat regularly. All right. Zitramanas wants to know, do you think more people would be inadvertently living in their vehicles in the future as a result of the looming U.S. housing crisis? Oof.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
There's the tiny house trend I don't think is going away. So
what's the tiny house trend?
You know, like tiny houses. People work like living in really tiny houses.
Straight literal.
You know, like there's shows on like TLC and stuff with it.
So the days of the McMansion and the oversized houses for the average suburbanite are behind us.
Oh no, those will still exist. But you also have people living in like, I mean, they're tiny houses. I don't know. they're really tiny. It's like a perfect description. I don't know how else to describe them. If you've never seen them, there's great shows on like TLC and stuff like. That pseudo kind of reality TV on the tiny houses, and people build them, and they love them.
According to Wikipedia, they're defined as
out on me.
less than 400 square foot houses.
Yeah, they're really tiny.
Wow.
Like one bedroom, kind of like lofts kind of things.
That is a tiny house. It's a standalone house. That's crazy.
So I'm not sure that that's going away. So will we see more tiny houses and we'll see more cars? People living in cars? Yeah, I mean, I think so.
Does that affect your migration statistics?
A little bit. I am gonna save my game position so I can come back to it right here.
Oh, we're save stating.
When I die,
Nice.
We're save stating.
Oh, that is amazing. Well done, sir. This is the appropriate Mega Man to have against this boss?
Yeah, you got to use each one. I'm going in the order. You can see he's getting. Oh, I got him that time.
Well
I save
done.
state. I didn't even need to.
Kudos to Matt. Good game. You get your GGs
even
in
need
chat
to.
for that one. Well done.
I got to go back though. I got to collect his heart.
Did you beat this game as a teenager?
As a youth,
young kid? Yeah.
As a ute.
As a ute?
Yeah, I did. I did beat this game as a ute. I think.
Nice.
I can't. Well, I don't know. I can't remember if I beat it or not. I remember getting all the way to the final boss, but I don't necessarily remember actually beating the final boss. Now you get to see the boringness that happens in Mega Man X. You beat the level and then you got to go and beat it again because you got to get the items. I don't know if you remember seeing the heart that was up there, so I got to go get the heart again. And I have to have Boomer Quamer's weapon in order to actually get it.
Man, for those of you that don't know, pre-internet, we had to learn all this the hard way and or buy a Nintendo Power magazine.
Yeah.
Those were the only sources of information. You couldn't watch a YouTube video showing how to do this. Yeah, you had to battle your way through it. All right, Bronco wants to know what will be the next Nobel Prize in your field. You guys don't do Nobel Prizes, presumably. You don't fall under those categories.
No.
What is the big award in your field, and who's going to win it next?
It's a Career Achievement Award. Well, there's a couple. There's a couple Career Achievement Awards. There's a Mathematical Award. I think the biggest person... I'll back that up. I'll say the biggest person to not win a big award is got to be a guy named Adrian Raftery, who's at the University of Washington, who's a huge statistics guy. And he's been in population statistics for a number of years, but he's a pure statistician by training, I believe. And most of what he's known for is in pure statistics. I think he's one of the people, if you're in stats, I think he's one of the people that came up with spike and slab priors, for instance. He's a big Bayesian, but he's the primary architect behind the United Nations population projections. And he's a really nice guy as well. He's really very pleasant to be around. But he hasn't really won any of the big stuff because he's not a sociologist. He's a statistician. So I think he's one of them. He's one of the ones that will be one of the big winners going forward. If that follows, right? Oh, got it.
So Reese's Pieces has a fun factoid for you. You can actually get the heart.
Wow.
You can get the heart without Boomer Quanger. You just have to do the power up jump, power up shotgun ice, which makes an ice sled and jump off of it.
Really? I don't have the power up though. I have to do that. To do that, I have to have the Hadouken, which is the last item in the game. I think. I don't think you can do a power up on him. I'll look that up.
Can the statistician you just mentioned will win a Fields Medal?
I don't think he'll win a Fields Medal.
Fields Medal is like pure
He's great,
mathematics, right? It's
yeah,
like solving proofs that no one's done and things like that.
Yeah, I don't think he'll win a Fields Medal. He's awesome, but especially as a Bayesian, unless the whole world decides it's going to switch to Bayesian stats, I don't think so.
Oh, and it's under 40 years old. I did not know that the Fields Medal is for people under 40.
Really?
Holy crap. I didn't know that either. That's amazing.
Yeah, so that's definitely not the case then, because Adrian is a little bit older than 40. I don't know his exact age. Oh, dang it, that guy surprised me. Ah, dang it. This lumberjack. The lumberjack was getting me. Yeah, you like that? I don't even have to get you. I'm going to get you anyways.
All right. So I have a question for you. We have a lot of different scientists on, so I want to know this for your field. What is the flat Earth or anti-vax equivalent for your field? Like, who's the lunatic outlier that's claiming crazy stuff?
I mean, it's got to be anybody who's doing overpopulation stuff at this point. There's no other way. Like if a demographer is actually like, yeah, there's too many people in the world, like they're not following like anything that has to do with the actual underlying science. It's really hard to find a true Malthusian today. So there's a few of them, and you can always spot them because they almost always make a comment at the conferences, and you're like, you're a little crack body with that. Like, what is this, 1970? Like, geez.
Are they grandfathered in, or there's new versions of this?
There's very few new versions. They're almost always like old dudes.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of one in particular. But if people are Malthusians now, they'll couch it in another way, so you won't really know. They're like casual Malthusians, I guess.
It's like Malthusians with more steps.
Yeah, they're like, well, I'm not saying there's too many people in the world, but don't you think there's an upper limit? And you're like, well, we've been over this like for 40 years.
That's crazy. Well, so it sounds like they're not controlling the money now. Like, we have a problem in chemistry, at least, that there are certain disciplines where certain senior mentalities, they are big dogs and they control where the money goes and they dictate grant agencies and things. But that's not a problem in your field.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, not that I'm aware of.
Yeah. That's good. It can be very toxic. Like, they have a strong influence on program officers and where agencies shift. Like, the Department of Energy has a meeting among program officers that says, where should this field go next? And you bring in a bunch of big dogs and some younger people and just come up with ideas. And sometimes it gets swayed in very wrong ways.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I don't have
sound very good at all.
I don't have the full understanding, but this happened with like nuclear power and everything. It was basically in the 1960s and 70s. Nuclear got shifted in the wrong direction based on a few influential people, and it changed how the funding was distributed. And really devastating to the field. And it was not based on science. It was based on the Methuselan equivalent of nuclear power.
Yeah. So, wow, that's awful.
Yeah, no, it's crazy because you change the entire path of a country, right? And so nuclear in Europe is much bigger in Japan and Europe than it is in the U.S. because of these outcomes. So yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you for giving me the health right then.
Perfect timing. All right, questions from chat.
Yeah, it was like great.
It's 10:42. You have 18 minutes to beat this game. Speed run.
Oh God, I don't know. I'm going fast now. I'm going fast.
Speed strats.
I'm going really fast.
Good. Anyone just joining us?
Oh man, I made that guy blow up.
This is sociologist Dr. Matt Hauer playing MegaMan X and beating it as fast as he can. But he can also answer questions about climate change and how it changes demographics and influences population statistics. He's a big data scientist. Happy to talk about pretty much anything you guys might have to ask. What might be the next game-changing breakthrough in your field in the next 10 years?
So I want to say machine learning, but I don't think it's going to be machine learning. I think the biggest breakthrough is probably going to be plugging in almost all of the social media data into the other major data sets and major data sources. Just because they're rapid, they're large, they're very they're timely, they're very universal. They have behavior as well, and I guess machine learning will play a role in there, but not necessarily an outsized role initially. The other thing I would say is probably Bayesian statistics would be the other really big one. Is it moves much more into the field writ large.
So when you say, I want to frame that question.
That was easy, boss.
Yeah, no, you tore that guy apart. The cutter guy really helped.
Yeah, you got to get their exact antecedent,
Yeah, so when you say social media data, what do you mean by that? What data are people looking at? What are they interested in processing?
So Facebook data is a big one. Twitter data is a big one. Sentiment analysis. Email, right? That would be another one. That would be another really big. Oh shoot! I didn't jump when I should have. I didn't push a button. I got complacent jumping on the platform.
So when you say sentiment
so
analysis, like Facebook can predict when people are going to break up now at this point, right? Because the certain keywords and certain trends in data. That's what you're talking about? Okay.
Yeah. So mining it for like that kind of information.
But doing that to climate-related outcomes, climate and population, and
just in population in general. So you could use that to predict. Like people are using Facebook data to estimate migration patterns. That's a really big one. Email logins. I've seen this one to estimate migration data, because migration data is really a pain to collect. So if you log into your email, right, in a one country, and then for like, I don't know, a year, and then the next year you log into another country, they'll categorize you as a migrant in the data. And you wouldn't get that otherwise. Maybe you didn't actually register your change of residence. So it's not just like looking at whether or not you're going to break up or not. Sometimes it's like literally your IP address that they're actually going to use as a piece of data. So it's really cool. It's very powerful because it is a lot of information. Like by definition, it is big data. And then when you marry it with more traditional data sources, it becomes like super powered. It's like data on steroids. Ooh, don't want to jump yet. Just because you have so much information, like very easily and readily available. And you can go between traditional data sources like census data and new emerging data sources like you get in the social media data.
Put my swag in. Thank you for stopping by again. Follow us for future notifications. Swing by. We'll be talking science probably twice a month until COVID's over. Then we'll try to do it once a week. So again, thank you for stopping by. It's awesome to have you here. And yeah. What can one person do to help end population growth? Related to that question, we're going to do our last prediction. So get ready to spend your internet points. We have one more prediction left. Colin, if you wouldn't mind popping that up. Spend your standard internet units. If you haven't followed us, follow us. You can get additional points. But the prediction is up. We talked earlier about who has the highest fertility rate, and the answer is a particular sect that has over 10 children per reproducible female. What country has the lowest fertility rate? Is it Singapore or Japan? So you have 2 minutes to make a prediction. Who has the lowest fertility rate, Singapore or Japan? And this fertility rate is the number of children produced per reproductive female.
That's a tough question.
It is. And you are all on the Ask a Scientist Gaming honor code. You cannot Google search this. You have to do this from instinct or intuition or whatever it might be. Who has the lowest fertility rate? Is it Singapore or Japan? Curious to see where this one lands. Oh, that's interesting. So when Twitch does its statistics, when it says 93% Singapore, 7% Japan, it's based on the amount of points bet and not the individuals. So right now we have we have 91% Singapore, 9% Japan, but 2 people for Singapore and 7 people for Japan. I did not know it swayed based on the betting, the amount of betting. Interesting. All right, you have 20 seconds. Put your guesses in now. Lowest fertility rate, Singapore or Japan? This is an interesting boss.
He's really easy.
Yeah, looks
He's one of the easiest. He's probably as easy as the whatchamacallit, the last guy just beat.
All right, submission closed. Lowest fertility rate. We had 2 people say Singapore, 7 say Japan, but the 2 people bet 908 internet points versus 380 for Japan. What's the lowest fertility rate?
That would be Singapore.
And that fertility rate is
like 1.03. 1.3, something like that.
1.3 children per reproducible mother. So, prediction results. Singapore is the winner here. So congratulations to the 2 of you that bet big on Singapore. It paid off in this case, betting for Singapore. So that's 1.3. So that's not population replacement numbers. That's well below it.
Yeah, that's well below it.
What are the long-term implications of that?
Oh God, I mean, pick it. That's it, pretty much. It's going to have a major aging population. People are going to age out really bad. Capitalism basically only exists during population growth. So what do you do when you actually have population decline? Those are all really important questions when you have such a low fertility rate in the long run. I mean, I guess they could have population growth with sub-replacement fertility, what we call. Replacement fertility is where it takes 2 to tango. So if the average woman has 2.1 kids, because not everyone's actually survives to have kids, so usually replacement is considered just above it, 2.1. So you could have sub-replacement fertility and population growth for a bit, or you could have sub-replacement fertility and population growth because you have people migrating in. But in the long run, I mean, there's all sorts of economic issues that can arise with having fertility so low. It's sort of like you're getting it in the short run, like it can be really good short run, but in the long run, it's going to come back and get you.
Bland molecule, follow up. Wait, so does Singapore fit the model of educated females like the earlier discussion?
Yeah, and very developed at the same time.
Makes sense. All right, so this goes back to the original question. What can one person do to help end population growth? And maybe do we need to?
Yeah, we probably don't need to. But I mean, if you really wanted to, it would be, don't have kids. Just don't. You don't have to. You don't have to have kids. We're seeing that now. There's a couple movements for having. There's one in the UK, a birth movement to not have kids because of climate change, until there's action on climate change. So it's not like it's unprecedented. But that's it. They're saying I'm not going to have any kids until we actually get this thing under control, figured out.
Quick one. What country has the lowest population density? I'm going to say Antarctica.
Well, I don't know if Antarctica's a country, but
that's a continent.
Yeah, it might be Greenland.
That makes sense.
Greenland's not very dense at all.
So we don't have that answer officially, but that would make sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. Do you think the lawn to garden movement really could impact the way people living in urban environments / cities receive their food and would be able to lower their carbon footprints?
Yeah. Totally. Being a hungry gnome would be definitely one. The food sovereignty and stuff, yeah, absolutely. Because you're getting it more sustainable, ideally. You're getting it right there. So that's where you have people making their own food much more locally, and locally automatically loses the logistical impact of carbon emissions. So totally.
Scuzzbot says, according to Wikipedia, your guess on Greenland was correct. Lowest population density. Well done. It's like your students putting you on the spot.
They're like, are you really an expert? I don't know, maybe. I guess I'm passing all the tests, right? So.
Yeah. And you're doing it while playing MegaMan, which they can't say the same.
Yeah.
Try taking his exams while playing a video game.
Exactly.
Do you think there will be an urban to rural retreat at some point due to climate change?
Urban to rural. Urban to rural. No. I'm going to go with no on that. Probably not. Just because cities provide so many amenities that and the urbanization process in the world, like historically, has been going on now for a really long time. In the US, it's basically been going on continuously for over 150 years. So I have a hard time seeing how it won't continue toward more urbanization as opposed to like away from cities. But we also have a lot of areas that are not historically cities that are now considered cities, right? So there's a lot of suburbs now that are so dense that they basically meet the qualifications for city living. So when I was in Georgia, Gwinnett County in 1990 had something, which is, if you're unfamiliar with the Atlanta area, is a suburb of Atlanta. It had something like 50,000 people in it. So, very rural, kind of outside the major city kind of county. Now it has like 700,000 people, which is hardly suburban at that point. It's only suburban in terms of its actual development pattern, but in no other way is it what I consider it to be suburban. I mean, 700,000 people. It's a lot of people in one county. So I wouldn't say that. Yeah, I wouldn't exactly say that we'll see that kind of a shift. I gotta make this jump. Let's see if I can make it. I can only make it when I'm holding the fire button. Is that weird? If you've played Mega Man, maybe so.
I only played Mega Man 2. That was the one I went to. I don't think that was even an option. All right, Bronco has what might be the last question of the night. If you could conduct an experiment with unlimited money and no ethical limitations, what would you do? You get to be the
no
bad
ethical,
guy or the good guy, yes. But you really want to know the outcome.
If I had no ethical considerations,
I mean, you could terraform Mars and do a climate change experiment there. We're talking unlimited budget.
Yeah.
Before you answer, Reese's Pieces has redeemed Take a Drink, so maybe another drink will help.
More, yeah. I would probably, this is going to sound terrible. I guess there's no ethical considerations, that's why.
Yeah, no, we've added that qualifier.
And I've got unlimited money.
Yep.
I would send a major hurricane direct, like a Category 5, or a tsunami would be another one I would do, directly to a major population center in the world,
just to see.
With the caveat that I have got a tracker on every single person, man, woman, and child in that urban area, and I am going to understand exactly how they responded, complete with like all the info. Like, I know, well, you name it.
Brian liked the answer because he just followed. Thank you, Brian. He or she. That's an amazing experiment. That is the best answer we've had to that question so far. Although, no, developmental psychologist Sarah Hart did want to do twin studies, like mandated twin studies where you separate them. So, that's. I mean, is that worse than a hurricane? I don't know.
Or tsunami, it could be a tsunami. Could be something like that.
I respect how far you went with the unlimited budget and no ethics. Like, let's go as far as we can. Like, block out the sun.
Burn down a city. Yeah, we could burn down a city. That would be the same thing. I just want to know where people are going to go to and like all their details about it.
Oh, science can be very dark at times. I mean, you think about the control experiments, and I mean, what's crazy is we as a human population are doing a much more extreme experiment right now with our, carbon consumption. Like, we know this is an experiment, and we know the outcome for the most part. So, I think that's arguably worse than a hurricane for a single city. So, yeah, let's reflect on where we are in society and as our functioning together. All right. We have 1 minute. Any last questions? One more last question, or do we end with the no ethics, unlimited budget question?
Why can't I fit? Why can't I fit? Ah! Ah! I beat all the bosses. I just need this. There's a weapon up there I need.
Oh, is that it? And then you can go to Wily? Then it's final?
Yeah. Well, he's got 4 stages, and I got to beat all of them again in a row. But I have all of the weapons, but I can't. I'm not able to actually make that jump right now. Or I'm making it, but it's like messing me up. It won't give it to me. It's really hard. You have to be within 1 pixel.
Well, I'm willing to stay up for this if you want to continue grinding this, because I'd hate to cut you off. Because Hamsterlicious...
well, there's another one right here I can get as well, I think.
Hamsterlicious wants to know, is information a tool or an object with objective existence to you? We just got it very existential.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's some information that is true. I can't imagine that there isn't information that is true, right? Like the sky is blue kind of thing. Earth revolves around the sun, but there's different shades of like trueness, right? I like the example of like if you were to say the Earth is flat. I mean, the curvature of the Earth is pretty tiny, so in a lot of cases, like if you take out a ruler, like it is pretty flat.
Yeah,
but
it's a good approximation on small distances.
Yeah, it's actually pretty round. Then you're also wrong that it's round because it's actually not a round. It's actually a spheroid, and so it's not a perfect spheroid. So it's like, how close are we getting to the true approximation of reality, and however we're actually trying to define it. Mm-hmm. So, in some cases, I think that there is like a certain level where the accepted thing is true with it, but then with society, like that's where it gets like where you're coming from and what your angle is. Like what is just, for instance, might not actually be just because it's you, right? Like if you're a victim, it's hard to ever see true justice if you're the victim, right? Or the other way, if you're not the victim and instead you're the perpetrator, you view your actions as being wholly just. Like it's easy to justify it. So it gets weird. That's where I don't know if there's necessarily like a high level of like ordered with truth. But then again, as I say that's also one of the things that I really like about demography is that there are certain aspects of it that are very basic and informationally true in some senses. Like somebody is not alive or dead. I mean, they're not alive. Like it's not a matter of like how dead are they. Like it's a binary. They're either alive or they're dead. Just like if they're born. Like I know that I am born. I'm here right now. So I've been born. Like somebody gave birth to me. Like that has to be true. Otherwise, if it's not true, then I'm in like some kind of weird hologram simulation. Like I can't accept that. So I think on some level, there's got to be this like informationally true capital T sense, but there's a lot of intervening factors in the middle that make it so not necessarily so cut and dry.
Unless you're Monty Python, then mostly dead. No, that's not Monty Python. That's
I did it. I got it.
Princess Bride. Princess Bride, mostly dead.
Yeah. I'm gonna skip here a single. I think I missed a heart upgrade. I did. I missed.
How many lives do you have?
Or did I miss it? I'm good on lives. I actually haven't used any of them. I've died. The Game Genie code didn't work.
What?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm not cheating right now. But now I've got it goes pink now. Look at this. Whoa. So that's like super right there.
Nice.
Now I'm gonna go to Sigma, which I have not done in like a really long time.
All right.
That's the main boss, but he's got 4 levels.
I'm
excited. And you got to beat all the main bosses.
Oh, should we?
So I'm not gonna do this good. So I'm gonna go until I run out of lives. I should have 2 lives. There's gonna be like a story, which I'm not that interested in.
I'm excited. This has been a grind. You've earned this one. I got
2 lives.
There's no continues on this?
Yeah, you just have to start the level over, right? That's the thing. It's weird that it's like unforgiving and then at the same time very forgiving. Give me the pink. See, in Mega Man X2, you start with. Oh God, this guy's gonna kill me right here. I'm gonna lose before I even get far. Like, can't allow that to happen.
All right.
In Mega Man X2, you start with the pink right away, and you start with the dash right away, which is also
That's
very
fun.
very nice. Yeah, like they were
kept
like
consistent with the lore.
yeah. Like you're in the second one, they're like, well, you already got it. I think you still have to get the head. There's a head upgrade that I got.
All right.
Man,
So
I don't even know where I'm going right through here, so I can't remember this. I haven't practiced this far yet. I was playing this last week, so I wouldn't embarrass myself. Oh, there we go. See, I just went straight down. Embarrass myself on this stream, but I didn't get this far. I didn't beat all the 8 bosses.
So anyone still with us? Typically we do 8 to 11, but Matt he's approaching the end of the game and still has 1 life left. So we're gonna burn it down or beat the game. One of the two will occur. Oh, look at that!
I got 2 lives now.
2 lives left. We're keeping the dream alive. So if you have any questions, we're still answering questions until death or victory. This is beat Wily or bust right now.
Yeah, the RNG gods saw and they were like, "You need an extra life right here."
Yep. All right, I'll do another question. So what was your "I've made it as a scientist" moment?
I have a perfect example. So I published a paper in 2016 in a Nature journal. It was a chapter in my dissertation. It wasn't in Nature, but it was in a Nature journal. It was like the wildest time. I was still a grad student. I mean, I was still working at the university, and Nature sent out like the thing saying, "Here's all the papers coming out this week, and if we think your paper is particularly noteworthy, we've included a press release for your paper at the bottom of this email. Scroll down to see it." And I scrolled down, and my paper had a press release, and I was like, "What? All right." This seems odd. And then, so that I don't know. I got that email like on a Friday or something like that. That my paper would be coming out the following week on a Tuesday. It's weird. I remember like the days for it.
Yeah.
And then on Monday of the following week, right? So I get this email on like a Friday. On the following Monday, I get this email from Nature that's basically like Springer Nature. That's basically like, "Hey, listen, we think your paper is going to be particularly newsworthy. So we need to know your schedule for the following week to try and book radio and TV appearances for you." And I was like, "What?" Okay. And then the email started coming through. I got, I don't know, like there was some French magazine that wanted to talk to me. And then like Time magazine reached out to me eventually, and like National Geographic. It was like crazy. And eventually, like on that, the paper was coming out on like the following Monday. And I had to stay behind like late on Friday at the office so I could talk with Time magazine. And I remember like driving home and being like, I just like stayed late so I could talk with Time magazine about my paper that's coming out next week. Like,
that's awesome.
What kind of world is this right now?
Yeah.
And that was the exact moment where I was like, I've clearly like made it as a scientist. You can make it without having this happen. It just happened to be like the 4th paper I ever published when it did.
And it went big. That's awesome.
It went, yeah, really big. It was in like 260 different media magazines and news articles and stuff. And yeah, Time magazine ran a spread, National Geographic, New York Times, pretty much you name it. And I like couldn't eat all weekend. Like my paper was supposed to come out like Monday, and I was like so nervous about what people were gonna write. Like, what are they gonna write? I don't know. Are they gonna like not like it? Like I remember the New York Times writer being like kind of skeptical about it, and like being like, yeah, this paper's not that great. And so I was like so nervous I couldn't eat all weekend. All I had was ramen noodles. That's the only thing I ate. And so Monday I went and got lunch all by myself. Like I went in Athens, I went into this restaurant, I ate all alone, and I watched just like my Google feed just like kept on like going over and over again. Like here's a new article, 45 articles have come out, 90 articles have now come out, 110 articles have now come out, and I'm like texting my co-authors, and we're all like, what is going on? Did you see the piece in Bloomberg? I'm like, no, I didn't send it. And like we're all texting back and forth on it, and like all day it kept going, and then it didn't end at the end of the day. Like you get the primary news stuff, and then the secondary news sources hit. So then I started getting emails from like, you know, the Jacksonville newspaper, or like, you know, like the Macon, Georgia newspaper, right? Like sort of second tier kind of newspapers then started reaching out.
Yeah.
And it was like the wildest experience I've ever been a part of. And that's when I was like, I guess I've got like a career in this now. Like, how many people have this that happens? Should I keep doing this kind of work? And then it just, that's it. That's how it happened. That was the exact moment when I was talking with Time Magazine, where I was like, this is crazy. I just stayed late so I could talk to Time Magazine kind of thing.
Oh, that was so close. What's really intimidating about that is we have zero coaching to go into those events, like sound blurbs and everything. Like any celebrity you see on those shows, they've been like coached to a certain degree. We're just like sink or swim. You're on your own.
Yeah, I had no media training as a graduate student, and I was fortunate that I had some graduate training when I was a professional, but still nothing for that level. Like they were talking to me about how to talk to local media, you know?
Yeah.
You know, somebody writing like a tiny local newspaper, not the New York Times, and what you need to, how you need to approach them. Like that's an entirely different concept. And I was really fortunate. In my department, there was a really big name meteorologist, and he's like really awesome. Mm-hmm. He had his own TV show on the Weather Channel for a little while. And so when it was all happening, I was like, what do I do? And he was like, get a haircut kind of thing. Like, make sure you're clean shaven because you don't know, and like keep your phone with you, and don't speculate, and just talk about your research, and you'll do great. You'll do fine. But just be ready for anything. Don't be surprised. Somebody might try and hassle you. He's like, it's all part and parcel, but you'll do great. Your research is great. Like you're great. It was very, very encouraging. So and he had a lot of media experience because he had his own show. But
So Greg Erickson from the biology department, he does like dinosaur. He's an archaeologist, but also relates it to crocodiles and the force of the bite or whatever. But he's big in the field, and he's done all sorts of, you know, National Geographic and all sorts of shows. But when I was going on, I did a show called Strange Evidence for Discovery Channel, and his advice going into it was, anytime you're on camera being recorded and being quoted on things, if you say something you don't like and don't want them to use, just immediately swear after it. Like without a vocal cut, just throw a shit or a fuck in there, because they can't use it then. And so you can self-filter which content. Yeah. But they can still manipulate your words to some extent, but you can kind of control what's being said.
Oh man, that's great advice.
Yeah, no, it really was. Because the thing I was on, it's kind of a stupid show. It's called Strange Evidence. It basically look at, you know, popular viral videos that have science related things, and they'd like go through what's causing this, and they do like, is it ghost? Is it some mystic bullshit? And then some expert comes in and say, here's what it isn't, kind of thing, and here's what it is. And so they definitely wanted to manipulate for sound bites. So it wasn't quite the realm of talking about your own research. But yeah, that was a hell of an experience. Awesome. Yeah, it was fun. It was interesting.
That's really awesome.
But yeah, talking about your own research is obviously a very different game.
Yeah, it's also a bit more harrowing, right? Like it's you that is on display, you know. So it's like, I got to get this right. What if somebody's like, well, I read your paper and it didn't say that, or what if I'm speculating on
you
some
get called
level,
out?
like, yeah, I mean, it's like, or like, I mean, the person at the New York Times was like, kind of skeptical about it. She was like, I talked to some people, they didn't think this was a big deal. I was like, oh. And I had people, my major professor was like, I read the one on the New York Times and it didn't seem like they liked your paper. I was like, yeah, I got that impression too. You did too? He's like, yeah.
I mean, so like quotes like, I think they're just fishing for some like oppositional controversy or something, like hoping they start a fight between you and I don't know. It's weird because they have their own agenda, right?
Yeah, they've got their own stuff. I mean, they're trying to sell papers, right? So
Yeah.
they got to get readership. I don't blame them. But it's like, oh, I keep switching to different guns. I don't want those. Yeah, it was wild. It was the craziest thing. And then this is the thing that's totally insane. That was one chapter in my dissertation, right? And then I followed it up with another chapter, from the same dissertation in the same journal that also went crazy viral.
That's awesome.
So like I had two in a row, two back to back, that were just like, and I haven't replicated it since, but it was like a really crazy 2 years, like very stressful.
Yeah.
Like managing all the media and stuff, and like expectations, and like, all right, well, I mean, is this going to be perpetual? Am I going to do this forever? What if I don't get a job afterwards? Like, I'm still a student.
It ultimately comes down to, can I get a job? This is my life now. You are right, hamster. All right. Brian G has a question. You kind of recounted your journey earlier, but was there a distinct moment in your life or studies that made you want to produce studying demography?
That made me that I read that made me want to.
Or just I don't know, an epiphany moment or a eureka moment where it's like, this is what I want to do. You kind of recounted it, getting a high score on that exam. You're like, I get this stuff.
The high score was definitely it. And I was like, this is cool. I get this. I can get a job doing this, and at the same time, I like enjoy it. I've got an aptitude. But otherwise. Yeah, I mean, it's just... Oh, man, this guy's getting me. Boomer Clanger. He's a rough one. Oh, I got it. I know what I can do. Oh, nice. I beat him. Okay.
Nice.
Otherwise, no. I mean, it just sort of happened. I was like... It turned out I wish I had better advice about it or better, like, thoughts around it. It was never really my intention. It just kind of happened. I just kind of was... Turned out I was like pretty good at doing this kind of work, and I found it interesting. And I don't think I'm like particularly good at it, just good enough, I guess, probably the way to put it. But yeah, I mean, there's things that I read and I was like, this is really interesting, and I was like thinking about it like regularly, I guess, maybe. I was like, oh, that's a really cool paper that somebody wrote, and I was like, man, think about what that means, kind of thing. Whereas, like, I didn't do that otherwise. Or maybe I didn't always know, like, I was always going to do this. I just didn't really know it. I don't know. Like, little things, like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I wish I had a better self-reflection on it. Except for, I was like really lucky, I feel like.
And you haven't had to reflect on it that much.
Yeah, it hasn't been very long. Oh, man, this guy's got...
What is this guy?
Don't get me. This is like RNG hell right here.
Yeah.
And I gotta hit it. I gotta hit the eye.
Anyone not familiar, RNG is random number generation. There are some games that are deterministic, that the outcome is always the same. There are some that use some sort of random number generation to pick patterns and outcomes. Was that it?
That's it. Yeah, I got all the way to that guy, to the spider.
Well done, though. You earned that grind.
Yeah, no cheats, but you know, it's pretty forgiving. That was good.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you for stopping by. Again, it's a pleasure to have you at Ask a Scientist Gaming. Dr. Hauer, thank you for coming. It's great to see you play Crypt of the NecroDancer as well as MegaMan X. And a lot of great questions from chat. We really appreciate you guys swinging by and asking all sorts of crazy, awesome things. So yeah, Matt, parting words for the audience?
Yeah, just thanks for everyone for coming and sticking around, and this was cool, this was fun, so awesome. Watching me die a whole bunch on NecroDancer and a whole bunch on MegaMan X.
All right, so we'll put this video up on YouTube. Follow our YouTube channel. You guys get to look through the whole thing, including the highs and lows throughout and all the questions in between. Also follow us on Twitter as well as Twitch. You'll get notifications about future streams. We do know the next date. It'll be March 3rd. It'll be Mike Roper, who's an analytical chemist that uses microfluidics and all sorts of mass spec techniques to understand diabetes and biosignaling and things like that. And so not sure what he's going to be playing yet, but we'll figure that out as we go. So again, everyone, thank you for stopping by. Matt, thank you for being our guest. Until next time, we'll see you guys some point in the future.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks.